Freddie.
God.
We're gonna change his name.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Are we live now?
Yeah, now you're live.
Thank God, we're live.
Oh my God.
So once you get in the chat, throw a thumbs up or thumbs down as far as the volume goes, if you can hear Miggy and whatnot, and so on and so forth. You all know the drill. While you're here, guys, go ahead and hit that like button right away. This way you'll make sure you don't forget it later down the road. And with that being said, without further ado, we got a guest. You've all seen him before, Felix. But for the ones that are new and joining, go ahead, kind of introduce yourself real quick, and then we don't have to go.
Well, my name is Felix. I am a friend.
Plop.
So I definitely am a friend. I'm a fan of the blog. You know, I have my close family members here, and definitely really open to, you know, those certain topics that nobody wants to talk about. You know.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
actually, I came on my way here, and I was like, listen, I've known Jay for a long while now, and there's somebody, you know, some character out there that he really looks alike, and I don't know like which character was it. But when I got here, I was like, yeah, like Jay, you're my favorite villain, man. You know,
The what?
you're my favorite villain. So thinking about that, you know, I was thinking about like, yeah, like,
Favorite villain? Yeah.
so
I can fuck with that.
probably it's like, what is it, like the Minions, perhaps?
No, that's
It's-
Arthur. That's Arthur.
No. So Jay looks just like Gru.
No, Arthur looks just
Art
like
is
you.
Gru.
Gru, yeah.
Art is Gru.
So thank you guys for having me
He's-
having me here. Obviously, I really enjoy you know, you guys having me here. Thank you for the invitation. So let's hit it, man. Thank you.
You know, you say the villain thing, and a different villain clicked in my head.
Which one?
Danny DeVito's Penguin.
Oh yeah.
That's what he looks like.
Is it because of my height? Are you height shaming me?
No.
Anyway, so guys, so you were talking about the
Oh yeah, I had to go through an attic that I was afraid for my life to fall through this brand new drywall. Yeah, it was annoying. And I was trying to say though, the worst part about getting into this attic was, I mean, not only was it like barely 3.5, maybe 4 foot of clearance in there. No, that's too much. Probably like 3.5 foot. Yeah. And when you go up into the attic, basically the attic access is right in front of where the garage to house access is.
yeah,
So
kind
right
of
when
similar to Arthur's.
I don't know. I haven't noticed where his attic access.
It's
is.
inside the
basically,
garage.
Like, right when you walk outside of the door that goes from the house to the garage, look up and that's the attic access.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So-
Arthur's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you go up and you look forward, that's the rest of the garage looking to the front of the house. And I go up there thinking, okay, I'm gonna be able to go up. I don't even have to like get all the way in there. And from the attic access, I can spray with the hose. And I get up there, and 3-4 feet in front of me, the first thing I see is this big piece of plywood stretching 4 foot that way, 4 foot that way, slanted all the way to the roof. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? Because I was like, this is gonna be so easy, and this thing that right there just made it 10 times harder.
Wait, why did they have the plywood? Like
I don't
that?
know. That's just how the freaking house was. Like when they were doing the joists for all the wood, that's how they did it. They just put that piece of plywood there. I don't know what for. It gave me something to sit on once I got on the other side of it. I had to get up there, crawl to the right of it, and like I said, like when I got to the right of it, I had to go through a little space, like this little opening right here in the table, and yeah, that was a, and this happened on a Saturday. Shitty day of work on a Saturday.
Mm.
It was
Must be
though.
nice.
Everyday hustle, man. Everyday hustle.
I got out of there full of dust.
Ugh.
Full of dust. I was like sneezing black for probably an hour.
And you didn't wear any.
I had a mask.
Okay.
But that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's still, you know, when you're up there. And it also, like, I'm in an attic. It's like 2 in the afternoon. I couldn't be with the mask on the whole time. I would get, like, where I couldn't breathe. So I'd have to bring down the mask just to get a little more flow with the allergies that I have right now. So I was obligated to breathe in a little bit of dust every once in a while because I was really feeling like I just wasn't catching. I was sitting down like this, but I was sitting and I couldn't catch my breath because how hot it was in that goddamn attic.
That's attic shit. You know, when was this? A couple of years back, Arthur decided, let's make the house a little more energy efficient, and he bought this material that supposedly they use it in a rockets to go to the moon. It's this like silver blanket looking
brother,
thin
bro.
material, bro.
I can imagine Arthur. Yeah.
Bro, and we went.
Jay, trust me, Jay.
Yeah, and then we got
Listen, bro.
Yeah, listen, bro.
listen.
So we had to go in the attic, and then we had to staple that material to the beams that go up. And then, how do you staple? You don't lay down, but then you gotta also go all the way down to the end, and just like laying down backwards and just trying to get in. And we stapled the whole thing. It was a pain in the
So
ass.
Did it make
I was-
a difference?
Huh?
Did it make a
difference?
difference? Look at your face.
Cool shit.
Yeah.
No. But I imagine I was gonna have to do that, but not on the top, but on the drywall itself, but with the rolls. Like I was saying, we bought the rolls originally, and that's how we were gonna do it. And I remember when we were literally picking it up at Home Depot.
Oh shit, the video is not doing well, huh?
Yeah, it has a lot of tearing.
It's the codec. Yeah, it's the codec. We're pushing too many. We're pushing too. The graphics card is having a hard time.
No, I don't think so.
Anyway, hopefully it goes away. But
CPU is only running at 10.8 to
Yeah, no,
16%.
no, it's not a hardware problem. The only thing I could suggest is a full PC restart, and that would mean restarting stream and all.
yeah, no, let's just continue going with this. It is what it is. It's a little bit glitchy.
We
Let's
could
see
just
how it
start.
goes.
We could start again from.
Is
the
it like
same stream.
movement in frames? Hey, Alex, are you seeing the whole stream in frames? Is that how you seeing it, or
No,
Oh,
Arthur was saying it's every
are you
once in a
hardwired?
while.
are you hardwired?
What do you mean if I'm hardwired?
The internet. Are you hardwired, or are you still on the Wi-Fi?
No, it's
Oh, he's plugged.
Automatically switches.
if you have the Ethernet plugged in, it automatically
Automatic
switches.
switches.
It defaults to that because it's gonna be the fastest.
Yeah.
All I can say is we can do it. Yeah,
I mean,
it's looking.
worst case, it's not gonna affect anything as long as sound and stuff is good. Who cares if it glitches
I mean,
every
it
once
looks.
in a while?
It's pretty glitchy. I would say we could do. I vote for a restart.
Nah,
Let's just restart
bro.
real quick.
Yeah, I think we should
Let's just
restart it
restart
because
real
it's not gonna. It's gonna record like that on YouTube. It's gonna look like shit.
Yeah, it already looks like shit.
We'll be right back.
No, frames are good.
Yeah, give on our graphics card. It's my official diagnosis as of right now.
I'm telling you, I'm just gonna get a new computer.
It's 10 minutes into this diagnosis. Give it or however long we were gone for, but yeah, it's pretty beaten up. The HDMI port on that card.
And we're live though, right?
Yes, I think. I
think
don't
so.
know.
It's just gonna take a second probably to come through.
All right, cool. So, all right, guys. So yeah, so we're talking about Eddie crawling through crawl spaces and stuff like that. Give us a thumbs up. Can you see it on your
Yeah, that's
on
the-
your monitoring?
good.
That's a new thing.
All good, all good,
Oh,
man.
good. We're good. Okay,
We're
cool.
all good. Here, so I'm gonna do it for you. So it's
We're
running
just
in
a
the
little
background.
paranoid. That's it.
What's that?
We're just a little paranoid. That's it.
Yeah, just a little paranoid. So I think I'm gonna look into a new computer, see what it's gonna take to get that going.
Man.
Listen, good things come for those who wait. So thank you guys for being there, right?
Yeah, for sure. Did they wait? Oh yeah, they did
There
wait.
you
Thanks,
go.
guys. Like, you know what? Y'all die hard. You know I love you guys. Even though I
Appreciate
talk
it.
a lot of shit to all of you, but I love you. You know, appreciate that. You know, for sure.
Clean
Yeah.
slate, no glitching. Let's go.
Yeah, we're good.
Clean slate.
We're
So
good.
far, we're-
happy to hear. Yeah, man, that attic was rough. It was rough.
Yeah, and then over the weekend I had my buddy Matt. I don't know if y'all remember. Some of the viewers do remember. It was his wedding. It was amazing. His suit was like $1,000,000. His wife's dress was $3,000,000. You know, everything is really well. Shout out to you guys for inviting us. We did walk. I had a cardboard
Partner.
Yeah, she had a baby. She couldn't make it, but the best partner any
Hey, them
groomsman can ask for. She wasn't complaining. She wasn't crying about her dress not fitting perfectly.
She just stood there and smiled all night.
She just stood there and smiled.
Did the
Yeah.
cardboard have like a dress that matched, or like what did it look like?
So the way the girls had it set up, girls did not have to match as long as the color of the dress matched. It didn't have to be the same dress.
Wasn't Lynette's like that?
Yeah, that's like Lynette's. All of us were different. We got to choose it as long as it was the
Yeah.
same color.
Yeah. So as guys, we had all matched, but the
No,
girls
what I'm
didn't.
saying, did the cardboard like have a
Did the
dress, or
girl?
was
Did
she
what did the
in
girl
normal
have
clothing?
on the card? Like the
I
cardboard
think her
cutout?
dress might have been slight shade of different color. I wasn't paying
But it was
attention.
like she was wearing a dress of the same color, right?
Something like
Okay.
that, yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
But then it was also a picture like that they blew up onto a cardboard. So like megapixel and like things like that.
Yeah.
And then we had a bright idea to put her, because it was in front of this like building, the house, right? We had a bright idea to put her in front of the window, like staring at everyone. it's
Goddamn,
just kind of cool.
78% already. Perfect.
Yeah. So it was a
saw you were
good
low
weekend.
Felix, I got you.
So yeah, and then I talked to Matt's wife Jill, and she's actually going to be one of the guests as well on a pod. That's going to be an exciting. So bring your questions. It's going to be a pretty exciting episode.
So I have a question for you. I don't know
For me?
if you want to talk about it or not.
Yeah, of course, man.
Your old job when you worked in DR.
Mm-hmm.
I've always heard other people tell me what you did, but you never told me what you did for Barcelo, right? Right.
Yeah.
So what was your job exactly?
Well, so I actually worked almost 7 years for Barcelo Rum. And I actually, I started working for that company, and I went to this interview. It was the most terrifying interview. Honestly, I sat down with the commercial director, and I remember when I got out of that interview, I called my I was married at that point, and I called my wife Patricia, and I was like, Patricia, well, what the fuck with this guy, man? Who the fuck do you think he is? Whatever, I hate it. I don't want to work there. Pump, and this is true story. 15 minutes later, I got a call from the recruiter. Listen, Felix, I don't know what you did there, but you nailed it. This guy wants you so bad. And I was like, what the fuck? So, anyways, I started working as a sales manager. I started dealing with the Caribbean. Barcelo at that point was the largest premium dark rum in the Dominican Republic. DR is it's very vastly known for rum production.
And the reason it's like that because they have huge lands of sugarcane. Sugarcane is a very big product in Dominican Republic, and it's due to the soil. It's very clay. Soil is pretty much clay, but it's very rich in nutrients. So basically, you eat an apple, you throw the apple down, and there's going to be an apple tree literally the next year.
So you're 100% correct. That Dominican Republic was actually where Christopher Columbus had base.
Yeah.
So when he went there on his second trip to back to La Hispaniola, that was the name of the island at that point. Supposedly there's an old story that he supposedly asked his mother-in-law. So mother-in-laws are not that bad. So supposedly he asked his mother-in-law, listen, I just found this beautiful piece of land, which this type of soil. What do you actually recommend, for me to bring back to the for me to plant there? So supposedly it was the mother-in-law that actually recommended sugarcane. So yes, DR has been historically one of the largest sugarcane producers in the world.
And tobacco too, right?
And tobacco. Back in the 60s, 70s, it was the number one exporter of sugar. So obviously out of sugarcane. So yeah, it's a well-known country for us, sugarcane and all this, derivatives, So I started working for this company. I felt when I started there, I really wanted to work there. It was a very strong brand. So I always had it like my baby, because even before I got out of that interview that I just told you guys, I told the guy, even if you don't hire me, I'm going to be an ambassador for this brand, because I really love this brand. So I think that's partly what actually helped me out there. But yeah, I started working as a sales manager, and then made my way up. Then I was dealing with the entire Latin America region at a certain point, and global duty free for the brand. And that was almost 7 years until I've always been a U.S. citizen, right? So the first thing you get from people in this third world countries is okay, so you're in Dominican Republic and you are a U.S. citizen, right? So what the fuck are you doing in DR, right? But anyways, I ended up like getting an offer here in the U.S. From a company pretty much doing this the same, because I was handling and developing distributors in Latin America and everywhere else. So, but they were looking for pretty much having the same responsibilities, were strictly for the Caribbean, for big multinationals. So at a certain point, I was handling Sazerac for the Caribbean, Stoli for the Caribbean. I was handling Maison Ferran, which is the plantation rum for the Caribbean region as well, because they know my rum heritage. But yeah, I'm always been a rum guy. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, I'm always been a rum fan, rum producer. Barcelo Rum was, at that point, it was the fourth largest exported rum brand in the world. So it's something for me to be proud of, where I took it and where we drove it to.
I'm gonna give you one guess, guys. What do you think? What do you think he's drinking?
That's it's apple juice. It's apple juice.
That apple juice needs to be retired. If that's apple juice, the color is not right. So actually, this is a pretty good segue in one of the topics that I've had. I took the notes down, but I pretty well remember what it was about. So, so with my other job prior to this new job, I was working with another company. It was a medium-sized company for United States. However, globally, we're talking in billions and quarters, right? Earnings, right? And part of my duties were to travel. So, so I was in Cincinnati traveling, and so the way I would travel, I would always get there a day before just to make sure everything is good. I get my luggage and all that stuff, because you got to show up to the locations, dress properly, tie, suit, like be ready. Always had my computer with me, but all the luggage would always go into I didn't want to deal with it, dragging it around. So when I was in Cincinnati, I would get there Sundays, and then Monday job would start, and then Fridays I usually would leave, come back, right? When I was in Cincinnati, obviously Sunday I had a day off until I get to do it. So in Cincinnati, what I did, I actually went into a museum, and it was the Black Heritage Museum. And this was a fact that I didn't know anything about. So as I go through the museum, they're talking about the history and so on and so forth. And the slavery was a very big thing, right? And I did not know, like, we talk about slavery, but I did not know, like, which makes sense. If Columbus landed in Dominican Republic, first came to Caribbean, this all makes sense. There were actually more slaves that were taken from their homes and brought to the Caribbean than there were that brought to the United States. And I think the number is like 11 million versus 9 million, or 8 million. In the United States, there were 8 million slaves that were brought over from Africa. And in Caribbean, there were 11 million, which kind of explains why, a lot of the Caribbean islands are predominantly African descent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Now, the segue here is, so I was listening to this new book that I'm reading, right? And it's about basically, again, it's about evolution and how people came to be where they are. But a big segment of this, it talks about relationships that people have and how those relationships developed. And besides that, I listened to another podcast, and they were talking about similar to that, but I'm gonna get into it a little more. So the thing is, they said that we evolved to be where we are purely by chance, and one of the predominant reasons why we became who we are as a human race, and today we exist, because there were a bunch of other races that were similar to humans, right? Like there's Neanderthals, then there was the Homo florensis that was in they were much shorter than us, but they pretty much disappeared. You know what I mean? There were a bunch of other humanoids that were very similar to us, but they all went extinct. And one of the factors that made us survive, even though we were, like, if you compare yourself to a Neanderthal, we're a lot smaller, we're a lot weaker than them, strength-wise. Our bodies are not built, because those Neanderthals, they were like hunting down mammoths and things like that. So they're getting after big game, right? So when Homo sapiens showed up, we pretty much like eliminated everyone. And one of the reasons was because we learned how to throw things above our head. We became really good at launching things, right? Which covered long distances, right? Okay. And number two was we developed to have group community relationships, meaning we would group up, and this would made us super strong, right? And this can be detected in some of the, right now the nearest primates are the chimps and bonobos, right? You can see that in chimps. Like some, a lot of times chimps will get into these communities of, multiple dozens together that will manage like 35 square kilometers region, but then they all each break down into their own little groups and manage their own territory.
Listening to a pod today, and they were actually talking about how wolves actually have similar traits in the sense of when they're hunting and doing stuff, they all know each other's roles.
Yes.
Like a community.
Mm-hmm.
They're not all going for that.
Yes.
All going for this. They all know what they're each supposed to do.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a cliche to compare humans to animals, but you kind of have to do it to be able to explain
we
it.
are animals.
Yeah, so if you take like bees, for example, or bugs, like, they were not what they used to be, but the ones that they survived.
I love there's like, I don't know what comedian it was. He has a joke about how he squished a bee and then, or like did something to a bee, and his son told him, "Don't do that, Dad. The other bees are going to come get mad and come." And he tells his son, "What do you think, son? That bee is gonna go tell his bee friends, and they're all gonna come back mad?" And then he looked it up, and that's actually a thing. Like the bees will go and communicate that something's attacking, and they'll come back and fuck you up.
Yeah.
Or they'll know danger is it, and they'll go away. Either way, fight or flight. But yeah, they do communicate. There's a lot of
It's funny because when I was little, I would think that like, oh, if I squish this bee or like do something to it, then all his friends are gonna come and get me.
So with bees, they actually have a bigger genetic propensity to actually take, like their survival, the survival of the hive depends. It's genetically ingrained in them, which means that they're all about the hive. They will pretty much lay down their life to protect the hive. Where we humans don't have that as much, unless it has to do with people that are dear and close to us, which is usually family members. First, it's family members, very close family members. Then it just kind of spreads out from there to larger friends and so on and so forth, and acquaintances, right? Now, with that being said, they did experiments. In evolutionary psychology, that aspect tries to explain why people are the way they are. Meaning, for the longest time, I was thinking one way, and I was completely wrong. So for the longest time, I was thinking, okay, people are just trying to compete. Meaning, like, okay, I'm better because I look this way, and they look that way, so this is why they're better or worse, this and that. It's actually not that. It all has to do with communication. So they did these experiments, and it's a theory why. So people felt more comfortable within a group of people that resembled them, which can be its skin color, eye color, hair color, and things like that. They feel more connected to that group. Thus, it's better for them to. They feel more complete when they're making decisions or doing other things. So when other people from other groups come in, they immediately are taken back. It's like, okay, well, I don't recognize you as part of my tribe, so I'm going to be super cautious towards you until you prove to me that you're good enough to be part of my tribe. Then we can talk about it. And you can see this in children. When children are grown up, let's say there's a let's say a child is white, the other child is, African American, whatever, and they're grown up together, they don't have that, right? Because then when they grow up together, this is all they're seeing is them. But what happens if the children are not in that group, right? Like what happens if there's not an interracial mixed group? So the children are grown up seeing only white people, or children are grown up seeing only African American, and thus when they do grow up, there's this clash of communities that happens. Yeah. And this is why you get these a lot of times the racism gets thrown around, this and that. Now there are people like that, but it's mostly what the evolutionary psychology is trying to say is like the racism part obviously exists, and
you're saying big. Like what I'm assuming is like you're saying the initial shock of like that integration is sometimes just because I'm not used to it.
Correct.
And yeah, I get what you're saying, but I feel like when it comes to like the actual like someone being racist, right? That's just envy.
Correct.
I don't think he's saying that they're racist, so he's just
Yeah,
saying
I know. That's what I'm saying. The initial shock
Yes.
of just that integration.
It's because
Yeah.
I'm not used to you
Yeah.
because you don't look like me.
Yeah.
Do you see
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
you see that like in schools and stuff.
Or not
like, I
necessarily
feel
you don't
there's
look
always
like-
the little groups. How
Groups
You
you're
don't
and
look
cliques.
like me. It's just that you don't look like anything I'm used to seeing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But not necessarily is like due to skin color or anything. You
No,
know?
it could be
It's
height.
It could be height.
height,
It
could
could
be
be
height,
you're
hair,
skinny,
you know,
tall, fat,
eye
short,
color,
eye color, everything.
behavior or
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
behavior,
you like,
the way
you
you
know?
eat or the way you walk.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Talk,
Like people,
anything.
people always relate to others for certain type of situations.
Yeah.
Or
Now I'm gonna
anything.
take this another step, another level. This is where that podcast came in. So let's say someone that has a lot of knowledge sits down and tries to tell you something, right? Like, hey, this is how things are, and I've done the research, and this is how it is, and this is the research material behind it, and it's been reviewed by peers, and this is, as far as we know, this is the best information we have. But you have your own predisposition to think that whatever they're talking about is incorrect. Do you see what I'm saying? No matter how much evidence they give you, you will not agree with their evidence.
I don't believe that.
Now, what happens? First comes in denial. Like first you deny, but then when you give them,
Well, because you have an initial thought.
yes, initial
I mean,
thought.
that's kind of curious, you know. Like, no, it all happens to deny. I don't believe that, you know.
No, I'm saying like because he's saying that
On spot.
if you he's saying that everybody, if you have an initial thought of, oh, I think that is white, right? And you before we even had this conversation, that wall is white, and that's what you thought, right? And then I come to you and I say, well, you think it's white, but you know, in reality, it's just because of the spectrum or whatever you're light or because of something, right? And I prove to you that it's really gray, right? And I give you all the facts. He's saying that you're still going to think it's white.
So this is what happens.
No, you'll understand. If you can understand.
Yes,
Understand
first comes denial. First comes denial, and in a lot of cases, when you do talk to people and you're trying to convince them of something, and you give them all the evidence, and they're going like this, la 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 la. There's gonna be a point. The fourth stage is they will come in and they'll say, yeah, that's what I was saying, even though you know that's exactly the opposite of what they were saying. They want to make it their own.
He's still on it. Yeah. It's still on the, what was it? The UV light. Oh my
The UV
God.
light with
Yeah.
the hands,
UV
yeah.
light.
Yeah. So they will say
wish you guys
they
could've
will
got
make
that
that
argument.
yeah they will make that their own by saying that that's what I was saying, but in reality you know for a fact that is the complete opposite of what they're
you know
saying.
if your brother's on this, you're gonna hear it later.
Listen,
you know that.
I mean, this happens in every type of like, you know, socioeconomic, you know, situation.
well,
right?
well, let me
And regardless, like for example, you guys talk about a lot about jiu-jitsu, you know, and I'm in the jiu-jitsu community as well because I do jiu-jitsu as well. So what I'm saying is, let's say you're in a group of martial artists. I do jiu-jitsu. Like, trust me, bro, I feel superior.
yes.
You know. And it's not about like skin color. It's not about anything. It's just because I know that I can kick, you know, everybody's ass. Like you bring like a karate guy, and I was like, what the fuck is this guy? I feel superior. That's it. Period. You know. So it happens in every type of situation,
Yes.
sports, whatever. Like you always, like you know, need to. It's like you think you can stand out,
and it's
whatever.
not necessarily a bad thing.
And it's not a bad thing.
So-
But you do have to
it's
stay
a
humble
matter of
within your own.
it's a matter of belief. Personal
Yeah.
belief.
So
Yeah.
here's the caveat. People in general are very open-minded to new ideas. Now, once they hear something that makes sense to them, they stick to that idea. And when it made sense to them, they stick to that idea and they don't want to change it for nothing. So that's why when children are growing up, that was part of it why we survived, because of the child rearing took us such a long time, and we're able to teach our children in the past how to properly act within a society and become where they need to be. Charles, I need to try this. So
More than welcome, Charles.
yeah, this child rearing happened. You know what I mean? This is why that's also partly attributed to why our Homo sapiens survived past everyone else, right? So what happens when you're teaching the children? They get their ideas, whatever, blah blah blah. So, but we're super open-minded to ideas, right? So this is what happens once you ingrain this, that this is the truth, and everyone else around you says that, and somebody comes in and says, well, that's not correct because XYZ. Here's the proof. You always have hard time believing this because this is not what you've heard. Even though you might subconsciously act that way, even though you might do these things, but so I thought that was pretty hardcore and interesting.
I like what you said. I know, I can say I've experienced that myself. So
yeah, so it's so like
Listen, if you've had like this is like, you know, like for example, my dad, you know, my father. So he's always had this belief that like, yeah, every type of disease, like the reason for people getting sick is because they're like walking, you know, like
barefoot.
walking under their foot, you know, like not wearing sandals or anything.
My mom.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
like barefoot.
My
Yeah.
mom claims.
but you know, it's actually
so many things
that's
is from walking
you know
barefoot.
So
real quick,
that's just ridiculous, man. You're like that. Like seriously, you see all these like I don't know what to put examples, but like all these, let's say, like martial artists, they all train without any shoes. All these fighters, the homeless people out there, and these people don't get sick. Come on, man, you know.
My
So-
mom claims that
What
if
are
you're
you
barefoot,
saying?
you're gonna get sick.
I do want to
She
say
claims that period cramps are worse if you walk around barefoot. There's so many things that I'm like,
How can you
how?
change a person's mentality with they've been always, I mean,
Well, that's
lying to their self, you know,
you
thinking
can't.
that they know the absolute truth, huh?
You can't.
no,
you
no.
can't
You know
change
what I
it.
think is a big one that I just thought of, like religion, when like in that same sense.
Well, forget religion.
Hey,
You know-
but I can. You know, you said you can't, but I can give my father as an example to somebody who did have that change of like he was he grew up with his mother being Catholic. You know, DR's majority Catholic.
Yep.
And his mom didn't cuss until she was in late age when she didn't give a fuck.
so like
but she was a type who didn't curse. Very good woman, this and that, right? And my father grew up Catholic, believing God, read the Bible, all this. And now, if you ask him, not so much.
So look, there are currently cultural traditions that many cultures follow to this day that have no rhyme or reason. One of them is circumcision. The circumcision was done because it was hard to keep clean. Because back in the day, people didn't have that. Like, let's wash ourselves once a day at the very least.
So for hygiene purposes.
Hygiene
Yes.
purposes. Number two, Muslim communities and Jewish communities do not eat pork. Why? Because back in the day, they didn't know that if you undercook the meat, you're going to get a foodborne bacteria that can kill you. Now we know that the reason is you have to clean it. So back in the day, they thought because pig is always in shit, because they thought it's shit, but in reality, it's mud to keep the sun off of them.
And you know what I thought was funny?
So they thought that the
The
pig
other
is a
day-
dirty animal, and this is why people are dying.
The other day, my boss Randy, he was like, "Bro, these people talk about they don't eat pork because it's dirty. You know what the fucking chickens do? They eat whatever you fucking give to them.
I've seen a chicken
Whatever,
eat a cockroach.
whatever.
Yes.
Plastic.
Yes.
You can give them plastic, they'll eat it.
Yep.
They'll eat whatever. Talk about these pigs are dirty.
Yeah, chickens will
They're
eat
all
anything.
dirty. They're animals.
Yes, correct. That became a religious thing because religious leaders had to prevent it somehow. How do you control the masses by adding that and making it a religious thing? It had to do from back in the days. It had to do because they couldn't cook and they didn't know that there were foodborne illnesses from undercooking pork.
I think he's talking about the circumcision. Top off the tip. Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
The circumcision that is mentioned in religion, but the circumcisions were done way before the religion came
aerodynamic.
around. No, the circumcision came around way before that. Yes, there are mentions of it in a within a religious context, correct? But that was attributed to the actual cleanliness and hygiene of not transmitting the diseases.
Hello, Jay. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. So,
I mean, what it just says here is that it's like a straight up religious thing, nothing to do with.
yeah. Look more. I know the research material you're looking for, but there's more to it. That's gonna be the first ones that are gonna come up because that's the most popular. Because this is practiced
Didn't we
within a
have this
religion.
conversation not too long ago with
Yeah,
Annette?
But that's not the point. The point is that there are facts right now. There's scientific facts that say that no, that is incorrect. However, people still follow that because it's part of the tradition.
No, I know, but I'm saying with Lynette the other day, we found that it was mainly because of like hygiene or whatever. No.
Correct. Yeah. That was found when we were there. It was found that it was mainly because of hygiene.
I keep seeing this other one that comes up, saying to attempt to prevent masturbation.
Yeah, no, that's dumb. That's dumb. So that's basically the part of the genital mutilation, right? Because that happens in a lot of some of the African that happens in some of the African tribes, especially it's geared towards women, and we consider that as a taboo, and this shouldn't be happening because it's considered as inhumane. However, it is humane for men. That makes no sense. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so there are basically, my point here is that there are traditions that cultures follow. They have no rhyme or reason, but that makes them close. That's what binds them. This is their identity.
Initially, they had some kind of rhyme or reason.
Correct.
Back in the day. Now we know that it's bullshit.
Correct.
What about like when they do like the fasting that they can't eat until the sun's down?
Yeah, that's another thing. That has to do with cleaning the body, so on and so forth. I mean, yogis do that. There's a bunch of cultures that do the whole fasting thing, right? And
I remember I saw a dude pass out in the gym one time. And we woke up, he goes, I was fasting, man.
Yeah,
so I felt tired.
So hardcore fasters, they don't eat or drink until the sun goes down.
Yep.
So the fasting actually exists in Christian religion as well. Like, you're not supposed to eat meat before, like, the Christmas. There's that whole
there's like a time period.
Fasting has existed throughout, and I think the fasting, because abundance of food. I'm thinking this is what it is. I don't know the exact. That in America, Puritans said to chop off the. Bro, that started way before Americas. That started with the Jewish religion, which is a lot longer than Puritans coming to United States 300, 400 years ago. We're talking about thousands of years before Christ. So the point is, what I'm saying, that with the fasting, I think it has to do with like not having food and things like that. So the fasting was a big thing back in the day, right?
I remember one year that I came around, they told me, oh, you're not supposed to do this week. And I said, huh? Who not gonna do what? I said, who not gonna do what? I'm gonna eat what I'm gonna eat.
I remember my mom like, oh yeah, like, cause my mom calls me, like she's in the R right now. So, oh yeah, Felix, today is Easter. You're not supposed to eat meat, I'm like joking, like me. Too late. I'm sorry,
Yeah. So the point here is there are traditions that people follow, and this is what makes them and this is why you're getting a lot of these quarrels, right? Christian versus Muslims versus Jews versus Christians and Muslims.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that like my parents believe in that like I don't really know what the
there's superstitions and things like that.
Like, for example, there's a certain day that you're supposed to cut your hair that it'll make it grow longer, and I don't know.
Yeah, because there was another thing, like back in Armenia, there's a thing, you're not supposed to eat milk with fish, right? Why not? The whole idea is because back in the day, they couldn't store fish properly, so it would rot,
Jay,
and somebody ate it.
I got the answer to that. Because it's freaking disgusting.
It is disgusting. It is disgusting. I do agree with that. It is disgusting. However, you look at other cultures, they'll make a yogurt spread, which is made out of milk on top of the fish. You know what I mean? And so the point here is because they couldn't store properly milk and fish, it would rot, and somebody would mix these and eat them together and die. And like, okay, well, you can't do that because you're gonna die, right? like this is what I'm trying to say. Like,
it all started, for religious purposes.
No, not necessarily religious. It all started because they couldn't explain why things are. And every time you can't explain why things are, that means there's something above that's doing it, right? Kind of like lightning. There's a god of lightning, right? Because you can't explain what the lightning is. So obviously there's somebody out there that's like shooting lightnings. You know what I mean? So this is how it all.
What happened to those Jewish back in the days that they for some reason they didn't want to get circumcised?
So they're shunned, I guess. You know what I mean? Because as with part of the Jewish religion, he who can hunt. Yeah, vegan is an ancient Indian word for he who can hunt. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So they were probably shunned because they were part of the community. There was not even a question whether you're going to get circumcised or not.
So that person couldn't get married or anything?
I don't know. They were probably a pariah, right? So and that's the whole thing about like vegan and stuff like that.
Right now, is like circumcision still a thing?
Yes,
Yes.
in United States, that's the number one way
Well,
of.
not religious wise.
It's
no.
not well in United States, not necessarily religious anymore. Yet
But it's a
circumcisions
thing.
are performed. However, in Muslim cultures, it is a religious thing. In Jewish communities, it is a religious thing. Muslim communities, religious thing. So it kind of flip flops.
So
right?
women prefer circumcised men now.
I don't know if they do it. Just I think it depends on what they're used to. So if they're used to circumcised, then they prefer circumcised. If they're not, they don't.
Yeah, it
That's
just
literally what
depends
I mean, from what I've seen on videos of like guys going on the street asking people or whatever like that. It's just what the girls used to.
Yeah.
And I think, like, another thing, those videos are kind of, like, biased, I guess you could say, because I feel like it also depends on where you're going. Like, I feel like a lot of men in the United States now are, unless if they're from other countries
Correct.
where they...
It's not popular.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's not popular. So that's why I feel like it all depends on where you're going, because, like, maybe if you go... in Miami, everybody's going to say, like, oh, uncircumcised. But then if you go somewhere else that's mainly, like, Americans, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it all depends on, like, who's mainly in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't understand. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
So, just because I was curious, because I was hearing two sides. It goes back before even religious
Correct.
regions, but not for keeping clean either. Just of
what is it for?
Sacrificial spilling of blood.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Oh, there you
that.
go. Okay.
It is
Okay,
really
so I
just
was
straight
wrong.
up.
Okay.
It's actually kind of, you're both wrong. It wasn't religious or thing.
Yeah.
It just was just a tribal thing that was apparently just came from
But
Polynesian, Aboriginal, and
why,
South American
why
tribes.
in this area here?
I don't know,
you can't
because
chop
the
it
guys
off
were
the
like,
toe.
"This is my sacred area," and the leaders of the tribe said, "Well, you're gonna give me a little bit of." I want a little piece of your sacred area.
Bro, there's you wanna go even crazier than that. There's some tribes that oh man, this is gonna
And
be
another
bad.
thing, too, they used to do it when they were older.
This is gonna be bad. Part of them like stepping into manhood, you have to eat the manhood of the tribe leaders. Yeah. So they literally will like
They got dick jerky or something that they have, so it doesn't go bad. Over
no,
time?
like semen. You have to eat the semen. Yes, to become a
Oh, you gotta take a shot of the.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
I will stay a boy.
Yeah. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Peter Pan my ass.
Yeah.
I will stay a young boy all my life.
Yeah. So when you take this, we do follow these traditions, and then that makes a whole lot of sense. And then if an outsider comes in and they start saying like, bro, what are you doing? That makes no sense. This literally scientifically makes no sense. But because you believe in it, it's part of your tradition. Everybody's been doing this. You know what I mean? So now it's very hard to convince someone that they're wrong. And whoever is convinced and that they're wrong, they immediately get shunned and kicked out because now they don't believe in what you believe in.
that's like an argument that me and Eddie had the other day. So, I don't know if it's a Hispanic thing in general. I don't know if you know what it is. But when you, like... It's, have you heard somebody said está empachado? Like your stomach is messed up and you say that, right?
Yeah.
How do you guys make that better? Do you know of any way?
Medicina.
Ginger ale.
I don't know if it's only Cubans, but what I've always seen my family do, they will rub the back of your legs, and you supposedly will have like a ball back there, and they will massage it, and it gets better. And we were having this argument because my nephew was sick the other day, and he was like throwing up, and so my mom did it, and he's like crying because it hurts, but she's like, just wait. And after she did it, he didn't throw up anymore.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like when they say, like,
happens,
"Oh, you have a pain here? Let me hit you in your shoulder so you don't feel that one no more." That's what that sounds like.
I mean, I'm not in total disbelief of that because obviously you see all these like Chinese stuff and with the
Acupuncture
stuff and yeah, if I touch you here, then you're not gonna be able to walk and stuff like that. But usually, like people, it's more towards like natural stuff like prune juice and stuff like that. If you're like emparchado, as you said, and I'm like touching here, yeah. Oh, wait, a little bit more, okay. Now I'm ready to go to the bathroom. It's not gonna happen,
So what they were saying is,
You really said that on air?
I'm saying that's something that
So-
Cubans believe.
So going
Miguel,
back,
does your family believe that?
Yes, my family does.
And do they do the same thing?
My grandpa actually cures it.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
He said it himself.
I don't know. Cures it.
so talking about back, the reason it developed this way, the reason we're developed this way, not accepting someone else, is because back in the day you had to be super careful of the invaders, because they could have been invaded. You couldn't just trust everyone, because when you
They
take kids,
got ball on their back of their
yeah,
legs.
when you take little kids, right? You take little kids. They want to talk to everyone. They're friendly with everyone. But then parents like, don't talk to this guy
my God.
because he might steal you. You know what I mean? This is how, like, don't talk to strangers. This is we instill this in the kids, not to believe the people that you don't know.
Like that
and
little
that was
kid we saw
a
the
purely
other day
survival thing.
Talk about Gammy said my daddy went to jail because he was selling them drugs.
It was
It's
a
this
video.
literally this little girl, and she goes on a
It was a
full
little boy,
rant
I think.
or whatever. It was a little kid goes on a full rant talking shit about everybody in his family. His dad selling drugs, his mama cheating on him, Gammy stealing money, all of them. And he just went on a full
Spills the
rant.
tea.
He's just
about their
recording
whole
himself.
family. And this is probably like a, I don't know, he was what,
He was like-
7?
No, I think it might have been a little younger, honestly.
I don't know.
Sacrificing. I mean, I don't know. It
Guys,
just said
we'll,
in
we'll
tribes,
dig deeper into
sacrificing
it.
blood.
Dig deeper into it later. Doesn't matter. But the point is here is because for the survival you couldn't trust everyone. That's why we naturally are not trusting towards somebody that we don't really know.
As well as a test of bravery and endurance and ritual mutilation, a sacrificial spilling of blood.
There you go. Hope that answers your question,
Listen,
Alex.
Eddie, the takeout out of like all this, you definitely need to register that brand, Dick Jerky. I think it would be successful.
yeah.
I think it would be
That
very
works.
successful. You know, like commercial wise,
Wait, but
marketing wise,
the dick
you
of the
got
gods.
plenty of material
It's
right
not
there.
just normal dick. It's the dick of the gods too, or not the right.
That's
You
the
have-
perfect
you have
slogan.
to do
you know?
it like that
Jerky.
because it's the leaders of the
Dick of the
groups.
gods.
Hey, listen. Hey, listen.
Right? It was
I'm,
the leaders of the groups back in the day.
I'm gonna
So those are
automatically
like the
say
gods.
You
TM.
got the brand, and you got the
Listen.
slogan right there, man. You know.
TM trademark.
What
We
can
just
go wrong?
trademarked that. You cannot take Dick of the Gods and make your own goddamn jerky.
Dick of the gods.
So yeah. So that whole thing was kind of like mind blowing when I was listening and reading that. I was like, holy shit! Like there's so much shit that we don't know about, and then somebody says that and they're like, oh no, it's all like because your grandfather told you to be a racist. No, there's like actually, yeah, grandfather might told you to be racist, but there's like more to it than just grandpa telling you to be racist, right? Like there's a lot more.
Well, the initial shock, right, of like seeing somebody different that you're used to, but then like you actually developing like a hatred towards them. That is a big, I think, educational, like being shown thing, right? Or those are the bad people because of that,
Yes.
right? Somebody's got to show you that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be shown.
And a lot of times you'll find yourself like, Hispanic community, even though Hispanic community is grown up here, was born here, dealing with white people, Hispanic community likes to stick with Hispanic community because of the traditions and things that are close to you. Whites like to stick with whites. You know what I mean? African American community likes to stick with African American community.
I watched a video today of it was funny because it was a video of 5 black guys and there was one white dude within them and they all had blindfolds on and they talked for like half an hour trying to figure out who's the odd one out. And the white guy was like from the hood. He just kind of like blended in with some of them. I mean, some of the black guys were like nerds, whatever, but like he kind of like blended in of being from that side, and that was crazy.
Could they tell there was the black guy?
No, it took really long. They threw out 3 other black dudes before they could find him.
So,
that's like as I can recall, that's a YouTube channel, right? It's called
and they
I think
do
it's
a bunch
called,
of stuff.
I think it's called Jubilee or something like that.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
And I've been watching that because they've brought terms of religious
they've done
matters.
bunches.
They've done
they do religious
It's
ones.
about the liar. Somebody's lying.
like bringing who's the hooker here, who's the cop here.
I see
who's
the gamer. There's a gamer one too.
gamer, who's gay, like in the pack. So obviously that takes a lot of everybody's like situation because you always have stereotypes.
Yeah.
So how can you tell like a person is actually gay, or or whatever. Like,
Well,
yeah,
listen to this.
Just by the looks, like, yeah, I'm a gamer. Like, you don't know shit, bro.
Yeah.
So listen to this. I was watching this other podcast, and on a podcast, this was in Britain. So the podcast is a very Jamaican influenced podcast. And Wagwan, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and the people that are the hosts of the podcast, they're straight up Jamaican, straight up. You know, skin color, you know, hair, the way hair, wearing hair, and so on and so forth, Rasta hair, things like that. And on this podcast, they had this white guy that is a reggae singer, and they try to put him on a blast by saying, "Hey, listen, you're culturally appropriating Jamaican culture, this and that." And the kid turns around at them and goes, "Where were you born?" They're like, "Well, we're born in England." "Were your parents from Jamaica?" They're like, "Yeah, we're parents from Jamaica. We're hardcore Jamaican." He goes, "I lived in Jamaica. I grew up in Jamaica. I went to school in Jamaica. All I know is Jamaica. So I am more Jamaican than you are." Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, cultural appropriation. Me speaking like this is not because I'm pretending to speak like this. It's because this is all I know.
Yeah, how he learned to speak.
Me singing reggae music is because this is all I know. So in reality, who's more Jamaican? The ones that grew up in Britain and trying to technically culturally appropriate themselves towards something that they're not. Well, their descent, but they're not. Their nationality is British. Their nationality is not Jamaican. Where this guy is straight up born in Jamaica, except he's white. You know what I mean?
It makes me think of too, like how cultural appropriation kind of how we call my grandfather Negrito.
Yeah.
Which in translation to English would mean little black person.
Yeah.
That's literally what it would mean, right? And if you were to call someone that in English, even as a nickname, would not more than like in America, I should say, you would not really get a good response, more than likely. And I remember it being a kid and saying that, yeah, that's my grandfather's name, and hearing, but like you guys shouldn't call him that. What do you mean we shouldn't call him that? What is he? And I remember I asked him the other day, when's the last time somebody called you Jose? And he said never.
Never.
And that's his government.
That's the thing.
Something.
I mean, you can get to be very prejudice.
Prejudice.
So, I really hate when people say like, oh, so you're from the R, you don't look Dominican. Like, how am I?
I get the same thing.
How am I supposed to look then? So you got a country that had like Europeans there, had native indigenous people.
Yeah.
They have black guys were like from like the slavery days. So you have a mix of everything. Europeans, you have this, like people from France, you have everything on the one
and the big community of Haitian that are coming over.
And what Ozzy figured out that he was part of, what was it?
It was partly African. It was he said it was
I forgot what it was.
Well, all of us are partly African because all of our ancestors came from sub-Saharan Africa. And then it spread to the other continents, with what happened back in the days. So what happened to Africa back in the day, they were saying there were rainforests there and things like that, but then it changed. Now it's a land, some areas of it's just desert, right? Like that. Yeah. So what happened, they actually pushed the communities out and they started traveling towards better climates and better environment to survive, right? Because of food and things like that. But so we're all partly African.
I always found it weird that.
So back to you. I'm sorry, just a parenthesis. Like you get to see all shades of colors there. So by you calling a person like negrito, like little black guy, it's just putting you in a certain type of all those shades. It's not a bad thing. It's like a funny thing, catchy thing. People get relate. Everybody laughing about it. It's not you being like racist or anything.
For
it's
us,
just something common, and people like laugh.
And we don't take offense to it in the sense of like, I'm a little black person. That's what I am. What makes that? What's the difference? That's what I am.
So to me, what I noticed,
and I get, and not that I don't get why it's like that here. I absolutely get why it's like that here because of what happened. 100%, the history of America, right? And what the people went through. I 100% get why that
yeah, but if
is
you take
that,
it,
like that.
if you take it in,
but
if you take it in that context,
we had slavery there.
Remember we talked. That's what I'm saying. If you take that in context, in Dominican Republic it should be more because the whole Caribbean area received 11 million, which is a lot more than what North America
But
received.
what it was is that it wasn't a segregated thing of like, you're black, you're white, you're going to be a slave. No, it was that you still had black Dominicans that had no problem with that.
Correct.
Right? So that's where that came from. In America, it was, you're black, doesn't matter if you were a rich black person. If you were in the wrong part at the wrong time, they caught you as, you're supposedly Sam Wilson? No. You're Derek Brantley today, and you're that runaway slave, and we're going to take you back, and now you're a slave.
Yeah.
Just because you were black in the wrong place, the wrong time, whatever. Or,
so the thing in DR is like in bringing, race to the equation and to the conversation. Because like you get to hear all these podcasts and conversations and travelers and whatever, pretty much pointing out like Dominicans as racist people, right? In a certain way. And it's like, because obviously DR shares the same island with Haiti, right? And Haiti was a French colony, and France made it, like it was fully invested into slaves, like to take out everything. They really wanted to take out everything out of the island. And so what happened at that point is, at a certain time in history, actually Dominican Republic was a Haitian colony.
Mm-hmm.
It was, instead of Santo Domingo, it was Saint Domingue. It was a French colony. Predominantly with really black people, slaves that brought in from France, right? From Africa by the French.
By French.
Right? So the thing is that, different from mostly the majority of the Latin American countries, Dominican Republic actually had its independence from Haiti. Because initially, Dominicans as a whole, that group of people, they were, not slaves, but it was invaded, and it was they were ruling the country, right? So, DR has an independence from Haiti, not from Spain, like all these countries in Latin America, right? So, you had two different people, like in the island, two different types of countries, cultures, everything. It's food, it's language, it's religion, because like in Haiti is predominantly the voodoo thing. Mm-hmm. So it's everything. Everything is different. So how can you blend like two different countries, into the same one? And apart from that, it's the poorest country in America. And in the same countries, 48,000 square kilometers, you have 22 million people there.
Well, not only, it's not that Dominican Republic is the number one country in the world either. You know what I mean? The Dominican Republic is right up there too. So it's not like they have this excess resources that they can just like, here, take it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And everybody's like, like DR should take over like Haiti. Like, I mean.
Why?
I mean, yeah. Probably if both countries, got together and came out to an agreement. But the first people that are actually going to say no is actually Haitians. Because they think at a certain point of history, DR stole the most prosperous side of the island. And it was not like that. You should see, the Hispaniola Island, the entire island from like Google Earth view. And you can tell like which side is DR and which side is Haiti. Mm-hmm. And it's a matter of education at the end of the day. Right? These people, like, they ruined their entire soil. They were, like, the number one exporter at a certain point of coal. Like, how do you get coal? Out of trees. So they started, making coal and exporting them. Oh, yeah, we're making money out of this.
Yeah, but there's no more trees anymore.
But, so you are taking all these trees out, and you're not planting anything back. So you're not looking at the future. So this is what's happening with this place. It's very unfortunate, But, again, like over there, you get to see people from all these colors, and like it's not a matter of racial thing. It's just putting people like we have a little bit of everything. It's not a matter of color, so everybody can blend in. We don't have like the R situation on which like you're black, so you're like excluded.
Never.
That's not the situation. So for us, it's like to call people like like little black guy or negrito. It's not bad. It's something. funny. Like catchy here and there.
And you know what drives me nuts?
Con cariño, like with, I don't know how to say it in English, that translation,
With
like
love.
with cuddles, with love.
Like,
yeah,
listen,
with
I-
love, with
like,
cuddles.
Listen, and all you guys can relate to that. Like every time I see Negrito, I call it with such a fervor. Like Negrito, my man. Because
Even my
it's
mom,
such a
she
character.
doesn't call him papi most of the time. She says negrito.
So what drives me insane, it's usually the people that talk about this and make a big deal about this are the people that can sympathize, but they could never empathize because they would never be able to live that life. And usually those are the biggest proponents to call someone racist, even though they would never know what it feels like. They have zero
either shoe.
idea. They have zero idea what it is to be excluded because of XYZ characteristics.
It's like the video I've seen of this guy. He puts on kind of like a traditional like costume of like a Chinese person, like with a little hat and like a not a robe, what is it? Kinda
Kimono?
like a big red kimono and like the pointy kind
Yeah.
of like the rice picking hats that they would use, and not the straw one, though, like the plastic one they put the plastic on the outside, and he goes to like a college. Right, I look like a college.
Yeah.
And he asks a bunch of college students, predominantly white and black students, what do you think of this and this and this? Oh, well, you shouldn't be wearing it. You shouldn't be wearing it because you're not from there and this and that.
I saw the same thing with
and then
with a guy wearing a big mustache and a mariachi.
Yeah,
hat,
yeah, and then they go.
I think it was the same guy.
It's the same video. It's the same video because he does the same thing. I was going to mention that too. He goes to a Asian market and then the same thing. He goes to like a bodega with the mariachi thing, and he also went to like a party. It looked like a Mexican birthday party he found, and he started asking people, "What do you think of my outfit?" And like, I fucking love it. You look great. You look awesome, dude. It's cool. Like they don't give two shits about it.
Yeah.
Right. And I do understand when, for example, I have seen plenty of times in my life being a Hispanic that when I tell someone I speak Spanish, they mock me with Spanish, and I can tell when it's a joke, and I can tell when someone's mocking me. And I get what they're saying, like someone's mocking you with what by either putting something on or speaking your language or whatever it is. Yes, that happens. But because someone wants to dress up like a mariachi on Halloween, I'm sure no Mexican has a problem with that.
Wait, and this is
Or if somebody little kid wants to dress up like a samurai, I'm sure no Japanese person has any problem with that.
So, and this is what that whole thing that I was talking about earlier goes to, right? Let's say you were not Hispanic and you were white. They would still mock you for something else, especially if you're an outsider from the group. They would mock you about something else. It has nothing to do with color or this. It has more to do with you not being part of that specific group, whatever group you're approaching. I mean, if you're going to approach a crowd of bunch of people that are not related, no one's going to care. But you go to somebody, right now, in your neighborhood, somebody's having a party. I don't care what color they are. Go knock on their door and then see if, like, hey, come in here and party with you. What's going to happen first?
Well, first of all, they're gonna be
Maybe if they're
some type of way
Hispanic.
because they don't know you. But
You know what I'm saying? Like this is the issue that I think we have, and I think instead of like labeling people this and that. Now, am I saying that doesn't exist? No, I'm not saying that. That exists, and it's a very small percentage that exists.
Yeah, like I was saying with the mocking thing.
Yes.
There are those that mock.
That exists. However, I think overall are pretty nice. People are pretty nice to each other. You know, when push comes to shove and something happens bad, watch these people, doesn't matter what color or shape they are, get together and try to defend each other. Let's say the war started, right? Like with somebody else. They would get together to defend. Like aliens, let's say, decided they want to colonize Earth.
I was thinking of
everyone,
zombies.
literally, including those African tribes, would get together, try to fight against aliens.
And I thought of zombies.
Yeah.
When you said that, I thought instantly, like every zombie show you've seen, they always not make that as a point, but that's something you see. It doesn't matter where they were from or what; they're all banding together against something else. And we don't have that something else.
And
We
this
just
is-
have each other.
But
So-
sometimes like people just try to like force things, like
Yes, and those are the people that have no idea. They can never empathize. They don't know what they're talking about. It's just because they heard it somewhere.
and my thing with that is, like, listen, like, you see my kids. My kids, like my oldest son got here like to the country. He was like 3 or 4 years.
I think Luma is watching like when the whole
I-
podcast
yeah,
just
I'm
started.
gonna
So
text her
she's
and-
talking
yeah.
about stuff.
I
that's
know it
in
is
the
that. I'm gonna
past.
text her now and tell her to hit
So
live.
so like my son got here. When we got here, he was like 3 years old, maybe 4. So at this point, my son, it's like obviously he speaks very well Spanish, like very well Spanish. But like now, unfortunately, his like first language is English now.
Yes.
Because it's a matter of the environment, right? So he hang out with other kids, obviously from his school. Everybody speaks English, so it's English 100%. But I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing they see his name, probably Hispanic. So I just got a text from like one of his like friend's mom, and she was like, "Hey, hola, cómo estás?" And I was like, why are you talking to me in Spanish?
I speak English.
Like, I do speak English. Just go ahead. Like why are you stereotyping me?
Let's make this easy, right?
And you see, it's a very broken Spanish, and I know I have a broken English, man. But I'm trying myself. Like, why are you forcing yourself to speak a language that is not the common language here? We are like both here to just go for that one. So people just put you in a certain
You know what I do in those cases? Like I'll go to Hispanic restaurants. I can clearly tell the waiter is not maybe very fluent or having a hard time speaking English. I'll start talking to them in Spanish, but I'll tell them, listen, I'm studying Spanish, so I would like you to speak Spanish to me so I can learn Spanish. Do you see what I'm saying? Like this is the only way I can practice my broken Spanish, which I'm actually putting myself in that situation. I want you to speak Spanish to me because I want to practice this, right?
But you have to be careful with it because, like, for example, I've gone places and I see people struggling speaking English, and I'm like, oh, do you prefer speaking in Spanish? And they get offended. Oh, I can speak English. So, like, not everybody would be like, oh, yes, please. Like, my English is horrible.
She says that, and I remember that happening at Best Buy, where I could tell someone was not I could tell, but I heard them speaking Spanish.
You can tell.
Yeah, or you can tell by the accent or a lot of
I
things.
can tell most of the time. Actually, I can say that I didn't want to say I can tell because I had times where I thought I could tell, and then the next thing you know, the person was from Europe, maybe Middle Eastern or something like that, and they didn't speak Spanish, and I'm like, well, I look stupid.
For me, it happened with Portuguese.
That too, Brazilian people.
But the Brazilians have a different, like when they speak, they have a different accent, and I think this one comes for me because I grew up in a different cultures and different languages. And Armenian language has letters and things that a lot of people cannot pronounce because it's part of the alphabet. So I can pick up, like I can majority about 80% certainty I can pick up what nationality they are. So I can tell whether they're Hispanic or from Europe or from Asia, Arabic continent, or whatever it is.
I had the same thing happen where some people, not offended, but they were almost like, no, I can speak English. I was like, okay, I want to make it easier for you.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like for example, I went to have lunch. This was on Sunday. Yeah, I went with my family to a Mexican restaurant, right? And I, like judging by the accent, I mean, I could tell it was the guy was Cuban, right? The waiter.
I said it.
There is a difference. There is a difference between Dominican, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Colombian, Venezuelan. It's completely different.
It's a different
intonation is different. That the pronunciation of words is different.
But honestly, let's say like a Cuban guy here. I mean, I don't know like how much time he actually has been here, like in the States, or has like known the language or whatever, but. I mean, what are the chances of you actually working on a Mexican restaurant? You're gonna be running into Hispanics. I think it's
pretty high.
It's very high. Like the statistics wise, very high, right? Yeah. So the guy is actually is oh, what you guys want, and I'm trying to like obviously speak English is what we want. So I was telling the guy everything in English, and he was answering in Spanish. Oh yeah, see, oh yeah. So he was like kind of forcing me from going to English into Spanish, like because that's his comfort zone.
Yeah,
and he knew he could actually turn the conversation into his actually,
Yeah,
like,
to his ease. Yeah.
it's comfort zone. But I was like, I don't know, but to me, I'm not gonna say it's offensive, but it's like am I speaking bad? I mean, people don't understand me. What is it, But I can understand, like, I can relate to people like that, or really trying to blend in, or like, yeah, we speak the same language.
Just make it easier.
Make it easier for you. I can understand that, But again, like, people are always like, if you see a person, regardless, like, speaking English, just stick to the English, because they're trying to be there, talk the language, try to learn, or whatever it is. So stick to it, like, make an effort at least,
And if they usually, what'll happen is if they think you maybe speak the other language, like I've had plenty of times where I talk to a customer, and they were speaking English, and then when they notice I speak Spanish, like, oh, well, why didn't you tell me? It could have been so much easier.
Yeah,
well, then that
say.
happens, and you can speak in Spanish or whatever your language is. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And I think if you go to a different country, then this is coming from someone that lived in 3 different countries. If you go to a different country, I think the biggest point of respect that you as a foreigner come into a country is to learn the language. It doesn't matter whether it's broken. It doesn't matter whether it's not. Like, to this day, like, I've lived in this country a very long time. However, there are times that I'll pronounce words and they'll come out wrong, and people are like, wait, you're not American? I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I have the American nationality, but I was not born here. Matter of fact, I came here when I was 18 years old. So this is why you'll detect some of the accent that I have, right? But to me, it was a very big point to learn how to speak English fluently, and at least try to speak eloquently at times. You know what I mean? At least try to pronounce words where I can communicate.
I never thought about that. How you guys got here and had to, like, it never just clicked in my brain. How you guys had to actually get here and learn English.
Yeah. Well, my biggest thing was, like, when I got the practice to actually, when I started becoming more fluent, is because I started working in restaurants. When you start working in restaurants, bro, that's all you're doing all day long is speaking English. For hours, you're forced to learn English.
Talk,
And to this day, I'll look up words in a dictionary, try to understand what the word means, because I don't know what it is.
To implement it to your vocabulary.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Or at the very basic, to have an understanding what another person is talking about, or other person is talking about.
What I've been surprised with is I've noticed a lot of my cousins, older cousins coming from DR, they talk about, oh yeah, I didn't know English, or like cousins that I know that came over, and I witnessed them not knowing English and having to learn English and this and that. But then I see younger ones, like your son. He knew English already when he got here, right? Or he knew a lot, right? And who else? Not only in DR, but then Alejandra, she knew English, right? In Cuba, she came from Cuba and she knew English already. A lot of these countries are teaching them English already.
I don't know in Cuba because of the system there.
Like on her own.
So you want to hear?
I don't know in Cuba because of the political situation there, but because I don't. Do they have private schools in Cuba too?
I have no idea, honestly.
So, like, obviously the because I know as a fact because this is a fact, like, regardless, the education in Cuba is very good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, in DR, the public education is not good. So people like if you're in a medium class and upper, like, everybody's always pushing for you to be a private school because of that. You know? So in a private school, you get to you have English as a subject, as an assignment for people to understand, because everybody knows that, I mean, like, English is the big business language in the world, right? So always pushing for English.
Yep.
So my little cousins, they go to an American school, which means majority of the day during the classes is spent speaking. Speaking English.
Perfect English.
They speak perfect English. Not only that, when they're at home, they're communicating with each other. They speak English.
I noticed
in a different country.
They're
more comfortable with English than any other language.
Living in
Lithuania. They speak Lithuanian fluently as well.
I noticed
they divert to English.
They say little things to each other, but you're right. Most of the time, they talk to each other in English.
Yes, they divert to English, and I can say that with confidence that's happened to me, because we went from the way my life set itself. I was born during the Soviet Union, right? And then for the first 2 years of my school, I went to a Russian school because my mom wanted me to learn another language besides speaking Armenian. So I learned 2 years of that was Russian school, and then the whole perestroika happened when everything fell apart. The next 2 years, third and fourth grade, were Armenian, and then we moved to Lithuania. Fifth, sixth were Russian again, and then 7th through 12 were Lithuanian. And throughout those times when I was studying whatever school language I was studying, if my brother was studying the same language, we were talking in that language with each other.
You're fluent in 4 languages.
Yes.
And Spanish.
Yeah,
somewhat.
casi.
Okay.
You're getting there, bro.
Yeah,
I know you're getting there.
So when we got here, for example, like to my
You
kids,
surpassed your brother.
for example, to my kids, I really wanted my kids to be, like, I mean, as a parent, as a dad, obviously you don't want your kids to be bullied in school.
Correct.
Or to be left behind for whatever reason, right? So language was the first thing. So everything in my house was it was all English, like English. I don't care, like you should speaking Spanish in your house because they're gonna forget about Spanish and blah blah. I was like, I don't fucking care. English 100%. I don't care. I don't care. So I came to a point that, for example, my 6-year-old now, right? He didn't speak Spanish. And then I was like, I do fucking care now. This is a problem, So, I mean, and we did it last year. And we obviously, before I came here, I actually bought a ticket. We sent them the entire summer to the yard. Obviously, to my parents' house and to my in-laws' house. Which these people, they don't speak, English at all.
You sent him to language boot camp.
So it's like, oh yeah, so this is gonna be very interesting. Like, my son asking for mango con plátano and salami and stuff like that. Because it's all, and then to you, and this is like, like to Jay, it's all survival mode.
Yes, 100%.
You're forced to learn something because the environment, asks you for it.
And I can give you guarantee. All you need is 2 to 3 months. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young, how old you are. 3 months being dropped in that environment, you will be able to speak at the very least middle school level language at the very least. And then if you have the tendency to speak languages, you'll probably be at about a high school level.
But
you won't be at the college level. But
you have to force yourself into those uncomfortable situations.
You do.
Of going out and not knowing how to, struggling to order yourself a burger for half an hour.
Correct.
You have to go through that, and that's the only way you're gonna do it. Because if you can go to that country for 3 months, but if you order Uber Eats and Uber all day to get around and use your translator on your phone, you're not gonna learn a goddamn thing.
You're not gonna.
Yeah,
last.
but that's part of the things that I really hate. People are like, yeah, I'm gonna go live to Miami. Like, bro, Miami is the worst place in America for you to learn English.
Yes,
100%.
Because everybody speaks Spanish there.
Everybody.
You pull up to McDonald's.
Everybody
speaks.
speaks.
Like they don't even.
Like, bro, you go to a
English.
place that you get to see signs like, yeah, we speak English here. Like, bro, this is fucking America. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen. And again, I remember like my brother-in-law, he had a long time without like traveling. So, I was very serious to, like traveling all the time and stuff like that. So he was like, yeah, I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be visiting you guys. So, what should I expect when I get to the airport? Like, what should I do? And I was like, okay, just get out of the plane. And obviously
Claim your baggage.
And honestly, I was like, listen, just follow everybody, because everybody's going towards the same way, like going to migration, then customs, and I remember myself like, he was like connecting. It was DR, Santo Domingo to Miami, and then Miami to Tampa, right? So I remember like I was giving all these directions, being like making myself like dumb and stupid, and I was like, wait.
You go to Miami,
bro. You go to Miami,
you'll be fine.
You get to see like all the every sign like in the airport says like everything in Spanish, so just follow instructions, bro. Like, what the
I've
hell?
seen when I went to Miami, I went to Hialeah, which is predominantly Cubans, in that area, and I saw a Publix that said El Publix.
Yeah.
So it had like a like it was a normal public sign, and they added like a special in a different little font and everything. El right in front of it.
Or
the
like
same-
the pharmacies, it's like CVS pharmacy
Y más.
Mm-hmm.
Y más.
Yeah, so well, I mean, there are pockets of it in Tampa
Which means
as well.
and more.
Yeah.
For those
There are
who-
No,
pockets of
yeah.
it in Tampa as well. Like you go
Yes,
to the Bravo,
yes,
you go to the
Tampa's like
CVS,
that.
Imas, yeah.
Yes, Tampa's like getting like that. You know, I keep hearing that Tampa's growing so much. Like,
Yes.
in regards
It was the number
compared
4.
to Orlando and Miami.
It was the number 4 city in United States when throughout the COVID, when the whole things with the movements and the houses were
Yep.
going up crazy in prices. That was number 4 city where people are migrating to.
Can they stop? Because I would like to buy a house
Nah.
here, and they're fucking yeah, right. It's the same thing. I want to buy a house here,
Yeah.
and they're fucking my market up.
Yep.
Yeah, so-
Impossible down there.
My prediction is that there's no rhyme or reason why I'm predicting this. Maybe we'll see 15 to 20% drop down from the prices that they were, but we're not going to see something like 35, 50. I don't think that the chance of that happening in this area are going to be, I think, very low. Just because if you look at it, this area, like it's super close to the beach. It's a resort
10
area. The
minutes
weather, the
To the beach.
prices.
Either way,
Yeah.
drive either direction. There's water. 10 minutes.
Yeah. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think if
Left, right,
anything, it's
and
going to
down.
continue, especially St. Pete, that as small as it is, there's no more land to develop. I think it's just going to continue growing even higher and higher. I don't think we're going to see price
Yes,
decline in this area.
St. Pete is impossible right now, unfortunately, you know. But
Mhm.
I mean, but again, you get to see, like, places like Wesley Chapel, Separate Hills, like
Mhm.
really,
But that's BFE. You know what I mean? Like in
Well,
reality,
it's
it's
30
BFE.
It was
for me.
BFE 5 years ago, though. Now it's not so much BFE. It was very remote, right? Like
I mean, you
remember-
try to go to Wesley Chapel, shit,
but
it takes
listen,
like an hour to
question,
get
question.
there.
For example,
BFE,
is
what
what-
does that mean?
Bumfuck
Bumfuck Egypt.
Okay.
Meaning,
Cool,
it's
good
just,
to
like
know.
a thing to say far as fuck,
Alright.
right?
But I really, I live in St. Pete and I work in Wesley Chapel. So people like, oh, what do you work like? Like it takes me literally 35 minutes for me to in the mornings.
What time?
Because I get out of my house at 7:10. It only takes me 30 minutes for me to get out of in the mornings. The afternoon is a different story. Because again, in the morning, traffic is all the way on the opposite side.
Yes.
People are going south because obviously you get to see all the remote areas going into the city, into Tampa,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's where you get to see the
Traffic.
really heavy traffic.
Yeah.
You don't get anything.
Not the other way around, yeah.
But again, after 5, it's a different story.
The whole
It's
thing is packed.
It's like yeah, both ways. It's like an hour and 20 for me to
I remember going to the account when I would like to go early. Lately, I mean, the past couple of years I've been going later, like 8, 9 o'clock at night. But I used to like to go really early, and I remember I used to tell myself I either have to be on the road at 4:30 to miss traffic, or I'm going after 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm not going in between that time.
Because literally 5 minutes of you being late will add 30 minutes to your traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So one time I was working actually in Tampa. I was working in Channelside, and I was driving from St. Pete to Tampa on a daily basis. There was an accident. I was stuck on that bridge for 4 hours, and this truck, the way it
You need another
flipped,
drink?
No, I'm good.
You sure?
the
Just
truck
use a fresh one?
flipped.
There's no more of
I'm
the
gonna cut
same
the
thing.
fresh one.
There's a cup there, like in the corner.
So the truck flipped,
Watch out! Watch
I told you my balance has been off from
Oh my God, this guy.
and there was a oil truck that flipped, right? And it was covering 3 lanes with oil spill. So I was there 4 hours, and there was only 1 lane during rush hour. Yeah, just to pass the bridge was 4 hours.
I mean,
Jesus.
But you know what I like
I'm
about
not-
Miami? What I like about Miami, you'll drive on a highway and there will be an accident, police pull people over. There's never people that don't stop. They see a police pull somebody over, they speed up because they know it's busy. They know they're not
Yeah.
gonna it's an accident, great, I can go faster, you know?
yeah, I know that accidents happen and stuff like that, but like you get to see an accident here on the highway. It's like everybody's slowing down. It's like it makes no sense. Just for people to be, peeping, like, oh, what happened there? Like,
Yes, they stop to look at it. Even though this could be like the 3rd accident for the day, they still stop to look at it.
that's just insane.
It's the curiosity part, right? So but
Okay,
yeah.
so we got Eddie back. The The reality is he wanted a cookie, you know.
Cookie
Yeah.
monster.
He
offered
wanted
you
Mama's
drink.
cookie.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
wasn't about the drink. It was about the damn cookie.
I thought he was being nice, you know.
Nah,
Like, oh,
I
come
saw
on.
your drink was low, and on the way,
On the
On the way.
I saw that there were some cookies left.
Oh, yeah.
You saw the opportunity on the way?
Yeah, there's only a few
But
left.
thank you. I really appreciate
I
it.
had to snatch at that. Of course,
I really
brother.
appreciate
Of course.
it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. Like the whole thing, like, you know, I was saying, like, you know, when I was listening to this, like, well, this makes a whole lot of freaking sense. You know, why things are the way they are. Well, the number one question is, how do you change that? If this seems to be true, because they're attempting to explain it that way, right? If this seems to be true, how do you change something that's ingrained into you, like on a subconscious level, biologically ingrained into you? How do you change that? And in my opinion, the only thing you can do that is by having more diverse communities come together, having a more melting pot, right? But it seems the more of a because arguably United States is the biggest melting pot out there as a country, right?
Yeah.
However, United States, all the issues that have to do with anything with race and everything come from United States.
It's where the battle's stemming out, man.
Alex
You
said,
know?
"What kind of cookies?"
Other baked
Bro.
sugar.
So
It's
like,
yeah,
let him. He
difficult.
can explain.
Yeah.
They're heaven.
Yeah, they're difficult
Well, I
to
have it
explain.
here.
It's the kind of like
Yeah, there's one right here, so you can see. Basically, it's like a puff pastry, right?
yeah, it's like
That she used-
baklava dough,
Yeah, the puff pastry, like a
but it
pastry
has
dough.
sugar in between the layers.
And then she puts like this sugar.
In
But it's
between.
not only sugar, right?
It's sugar.
It's just straight sugar.
Well, there's more to it,
Yeah.
but the way it's done, so the sugar doesn't all like ooze out. Like you gotta bake it at certain temperature and things. Like there's a whole science.
It's
to it.
heavenly. It is literally heavenly.
Yeah,
So you brought up the evolution thing.
it's sugar, ghee, and flour basically.
Okay. We brought up the evolution thing, and it reminded me today. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how they thought that people who have
Look at the close up.
So show the side so they can see what's going on. It doesn't matter at this point.
he was talking about how he suspects. This was Joe Rogan's podcast, by the way. That he was talking about how he suspects that people who have these phobias of like a spider or a snake or something, but these phobias don't stem from nowhere. They, like, for example, people who have never seen somebody been bit by a spider or anything like that happen still have these phobias.
Correct. Yeah.
And he was saying it has to be that he was thinking that memories possibly pass through genes as well.
So there's
And they were saying that these experience of, like, for example, somebody before could have seen somebody die by a spider.
So there's
and then that comes through like that fear. Like your parent has that embedded fear, and that was passed down.
That's,
So
what
there's
that's what it is. It's the environment, you know.
no. So there's an explanation to that. You know why are you ticklish, especially when the younger kids are super ticklish? It's because
Well, it's not only the spider and snake thing; it was other things too, like
cricket crawlers.
different experiences as well.
So the attempt to explain that by, you know, when kids are super ticklish is because back in the day, like, you didn't live in an environment like your proverbial nest was maybe a cave or a hut, which was a little more susceptible to spiders and snakes. So humans developed
Yeah, that's why
the
it would
ticklishness. It was kind of genetically developed through evolution, the ticklishness, so they can detect that when they're asleep. So when it does crawl on you, you get up and shoo it off of you, right? So you don't get bit by something like that. So that's where the ticklishness comes in. And now I don't know if that fear thing, you know, has a
Well, it wasn't only saying with fear. He was saying different things too, like experiences or certain skills, or like he started comparing to how he sees certain things that he's very good at, or like skills or reflexes that he sees in his daughters, things that he notices himself that was in him and that he sees in his daughters, things like that too. That this is all just him suspecting, right? Like, you know, no actual knowledge.
well, I mean,
on
that
this,
makes
but
sense
just-
if the genetic information is transferred over.
Yeah,
And if they're
that's
down the
what-
line,
So I have a question for you. We've been discussing, you know, genetics and stuff like that, and obviously, I mean, you have Arthur is here, and Ed is here as well. How can you explain two kids under the same roof? Generally, the oldest one is like, you know, very respectful, you know, passive, more perhaps analytical, and that, the small one, it's usually a problem one.
That's how it was.
How does that work?
He got married.
So
Is
the biggest thing we
that
figured,
genetic?
we talked with this about Blanca too, about how basically she said, and I asked her this, that it's that Giovanni, right, in her situation is the same thing, right? Julian is like this little heavenly child, and Giovanni's like the Tasmanian devil, and she was explaining, and I this is what we thought. This is my theory. And she kind of, made me right, that Giovanni gets to see what Julian does, and he thinks those are the limits, right? And he thinks, okay, well, I'm gonna see what my limit is, right? Go a little past that and a little past that, and so they start pushing new buttons that, for example, the older one hasn't got to yet because he only had his viewpoint. Now, by Giovanni having this other one, he's like, well, I think I can go a little further than what he did.
Well, like yesterday, I had a situation in my house with my little one.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this one.
As usual. So he got a report again from his after school. It's been like the 15,
Oh my god.
like so far. Like really, seriously.
Double digits.
And no, seriously. And yesterday, I just confronted him in a certain way, and I listen, stay here. And I was like, I really wanted to spank him, whatever, but again, it doesn't work because I've done it before. He keeps on doing the same thing, so I'm trying to be rational with the kid. Trying to be, kind of a. Like,
That's where you made your first mistake.
So you, I was like, do you? And I asked him, like, do you think you're smart? I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, really? So I was like, Rodrigo! Like, call me all of a sudden. Do you think you're smart? And he's like, yeah. Why do you think you're smart, Rodrigo? And he's like, well, because I follow directions. I understand what are the consequences of my acts. And obviously, I don't want to get spanked, So you see, you're not that smart. It was like, wait, I'm not that smart.
You had that realization?
Yeah, like obviously, because you see, your brother gets all the treats, gets all the nice things, and you're not getting anything. You like your tablet? You don't have a tablet anymore. You like your Pokemon binder? I mean, I threw it down the toilet. You know that. And he's like, so. Does that make you smart? He's like, Daddy, I think I'm smart, It's like, listen, what do you think we should do with you? He's like,
getting asked that as a little kid is always like,
You should take me to the mall.
nothing. No, you don't do nothing. I'm not gonna do it anymore. You don't do nothing. You don't do nothing.
I'm not gonna do it again. I promise, Daddy. It was like, and listen, I don't know where
This is promise number 15.
I don't know where he got this from. It's like, let's make a deal. Like
Negotiating
with me, man. If I go like 2 days, you're gonna give me back. No, that doesn't work that way, buddy. So what do you think? You see like older kids with that like different type of behavior, same environment, same type of situation. I understand your point, which is very valid. There's like seeing the limits, but again, I think it's like way past than that.
This is all speculation, but another big thing I see with a lot of kids like acting out, and especially at school, is them being that outsider maybe at school. Not knowing, I don't know if that's what's maybe happening, but like maybe something could be happening at school that maybe is making him feel put to the side or put down in some kind of way, and he's trying to get attention. So maybe it's not the he sees Rodrigo pushing buttons and he thinks, no, I can go further, right? It might not be that.
No, because Rodrigo has been always like on the honor list, honor roll, principals list, you name it, always up there. Always like 100% mom's side.
Yeah. So I see
So
what you're saying.
I know my little one, you know, and he was like, I had the situation in which I know what I have, I know the son that I have. So I remember going at the, very first days of school school year, and I went to see the teacher, right? So on my way to see the teacher, I got a call from my wife.
Huh?
Huh?
I'm gonna defend his child.
There you go. Come on. We gotta, let's welcome Lynette to the conversation, you know?
And she says she's coming to play devil's advocate, so she's gonna be.
So, on my way to see the teacher that day, right? I know the son that I have, right? But on my way to see the teacher, my wife calls me. She calls me, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, listen, I don't want to put you in a bad mood, but Gonzalo just got a new report again. And I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna spank this kid like so bad. He's gonna remember this day." So I'm on my way to school to talk to his teacher, for the first time. And I was like, "Oh my god, how can I play this?" So going into the classroom, she's explaining the entire, her methodology. How do you call it?
Methodology.
No,
Perspective.
curriculum.
Like the entire curriculum for the school year and how she's gonna be played out, like showing kids and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
by
Her methodology.
by weeks, semesters, whatever. So, and I'm like, sitting there in one of those little chairs, right? I'm listening to everything, blah blah, and I honestly I was paying attention, but all I wanted was to the conversation to finish because I wanted to approach the teacher. And as soon as she finished, right, I went like a dog, with my tails between my legs. Like, listen, I know, I'm sorry. I know maybe Gonzalo can be a handful, very difficult child, but I know he's very kind. And he's like, no. Your son is brilliant. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, his percentile is like way up here. You see all that? Like, he excels like everybody here. He's like way smarter than everybody else. In fact, I'm actually gonna propose him to be, on the gifted program. I was like, wait. Are we talking about the same Gonzalo here?
This is why I stepped in, because I feel like I feel like it has a little bit to do with what you said about seeing what the other sibling does. But I feel like your son is so smart that he gets bored
Yeah, I think so too.
in what every other kid is doing. And I think that happens a lot with second children because they come out.
What happened to him?
I mean, you can't say that because he's an engineer. I mean,
Yeah, and
he's smart. But especially at a young age, I think that the young child is watching what the older child does.
Older brother will never admit younger brother is smart. That's you're not gonna get
Well,
that to
I
happen.
say it. I'll say that
but he's not.
you learn. I'm not saying that Eddie is smarter than me, but he learned faster than me because when he came out
I'm
by
smarter
1
than you.
year old, oh shut up. At 1 year old, he was trying to mimic me, and I was in elementary school at the time. Arthur, get your dog. And when they're even closer in age, I feel like with your kids and with Blanca's kids, Julian is learning to read, and Giovanni is sitting there like, man, I want to do what he's doing. So they learn at a lot faster rate because they're not learning from their parents. They're learning from children, and children learn faster from other children. So when your child was starting to walk and talk, he was trying to do what his bigger brother was doing, and now his level is his mentality is a lot higher than the kids at his age.
Well, so I have a proposition. I could be wrong, but then there's also a question Alex had, which I'm gonna try to
I'll pull it
answer.
up now.
So, for my proposition, he's 6 years old now, right?
6, yeah.
I would say try to bring him in more into your world, meaning like into a grown-up world, because it's the time where he's gonna start shaping of what kind of a man he's gonna be in the future. He's a handful.
So
You're gonna have a lot of trouble with that.
What people have told me is like, and I really came to that conclusion, and Lynette just said it. I think he just he gets bored.
I think so.
Like with all the kids in his same classroom and he being, excelling, whatever they're teaching, they're doing. He's on a way different like level. He's like, way up here. So I think because he's on a much favorable spot when it comes to the, learning cycle or whatever you want to call it, right? By the teacher trying to put everybody else at the same level, he's like, getting bored of the process. So I just think, and we came to that conclusion, I just think that he's actually, getting bored. So, like, should I find like newer task for him? Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should I put him on and
Give him more challenging tasks.
And I had a person saying like, oh, he has like all this energy, so why don't you put him on this like a contact sport? Maybe like if he has like whatever situation.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes when you put kids in sports to kill energy, they train to that level of energy, and then when they're not in that sport that day, they're like over the top.
Well, that's with anybody. You hear guys that are like big gym freaks, or like he said it literally today, how he was like not
Attitude
feeling
adjustment. Yeah.
Yeah, he was not feeling right because he hadn't gone to jiu-jitsu yet. But that's because he was used to that, like release of energy. It almost kind of happens to me even with work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I have a very manual labor demanding job, and if I go to work for a long time, months at a time, and then the day I'm off, I feel like I need to do something.
Yeah, you're
Like, I just need
crawling
to
up
get
the
it out.
walls. You're
Yeah.
crawling up the walls, like all that energy is built. But yeah, I would say bring him into your world, and because Gonzalo, Rodrigo is at certain level, but you are at much higher level. So bring him in and start challenging him with things that are way above.
You may be surprised on what they can help you with.
Yeah, but Alex's question was, can you genetically choose your child?
No.
Right?
So actually, I saw what he said, and it said, if possible, would you edit your future child's genetic code for the possibility of making a super baby, like a super smart, like?
I don't know. That's
It would
healthy.
depend. It would depend because
I just look at it this way.
But again, I'm telling you, I just got it from the teacher.
well, every child has
And
ADHD.
he's on a and even you see, he said he could be ADHD.
No, but that's normal. ADHD is normal because think about it. Back in the day, because the schools as a conglomerate were getting kids into one place and making them sit down and learn for extended amount of time. It's fairly a new thing. Back in the day, they would just walk around the forest, throw twigs, okay, get bored with this, go to something else. ADHD is normal in us. The attention span of a child is 15 to 20 minutes. This is a normal genetic predisposition. But when you cuddle people up into one place and then label it as ADHD as being something, it's not normal. That's not true. This is a normal course of action. We're not used to sitting in schools. We're just not. Genetically, we're not predisposed to that. Evolutionary,
and it's
we're
like
not
that.
predisposed.
And honestly, perhaps he's gonna you're gonna read it and listen to it like on a bad way. What I'm gonna say. But for example, like where I grew up, I mean, when we were a very early age, because this was not something that was around, like there was no autism. Like nobody knew that. Like name perhaps like medically whatever
diagnosis.
diagnosed. That was not a thing.
Yeah.
So back in the days, like a person was showing certain type of behavior,
Mentally challenged
or whatever, I mean, in the art, you just got just get spanked, so.
Yeah, no, that's how
So
it was
like
everywhere.
forcing kids to go on a certain track, being forced over whatever situation by spanking or whatever out of fear, whatever you want, but like. That was not a thing. I can't not recall like my friends in school or some other friend of mine, but like having certain type of situation. This is something that it's not.
So, just to give you a little, make it a little clear,
you
I do 100% understand what you're saying. I just want you to not be confused. So, autism, that is something that is 100% genetically wrong with you, and
Yes.
that is not this. I think you're taking a little pass. So ADHD,
Yeah.
that's something that
I'm not comparing one to another.
No,
I'm just
I know.
saying like for example.
But he was talking about us, that
For-
we might have ADHD.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, that ADHD is in us no matter what.
Listen,
I heard it. I actually saved it.
in what year do you actually got to hear the word autism as a thing,
No,
Let's see.
autism or genetic defects, like we knew about it back home too. Like I've heard about it, right? But
Yeah,
it-
because autism goes as far as, like, for example, somebody who is severely autistic, they can't even speak. They're nonverbal. They have no social.
But
That's
a word like, yeah, this guy is like autistic, like back
So that's something that's thrown around a lot as somebody who's just maybe like just like can't function properly in society, right? Not necessarily because they're actually autistic. That's just that word of being autistic is thrown around so much of somebody who might just be
so is the word
Socially
ADHD.
awkward.
socially awkward or
So-
ADHD. Like,
so there's the
back
word
back in my
ADHD.
days,
so in the word ADHD is word thrown around even worse.
Correct.
Just because you can't
ADD or OCD.
yeah, just
all
because
of
you
those
can't
are-
focus, that's just you
It's
zoning
not.
out.
It's not. Exactly.
You're just zoning out. You can't get the fight or flight. I have a great clip I would like to show today, but we can't. Of a scientist saying, I think ADHD is not an actual disease.
Correct.
So
He explains
It's
it.
a thing. It's a thing. Correct. That does exist. Like that exists on a hyper level at a very low percentage. That for us to go and say that doesn't exist, that's not true. It does exist.
Yes.
However, the
Yes.
amount of it, the percentage of it that exists, is negligible. It's statistically insignificant in a whole thing of a myriad of things. But now half of the kids are ADHD and they have to be on opioids to suppress the ADHD.
So-
Come on, man.
So I worked at a pediatric office for 4 years,
Yeah.
and the amount of times we would get paperwork to fill out because the teachers are suggested, and this is no hate on teachers because to me teachers do an amazing job for what they're given. For teachers,
Yeah,
to
but they're
diagnose-
not. I mean, they do, but they're not the best and the brightest we have. I mean,
Well,
nobody's
no,
discounting the amount of work they do, but they're not the best and brightest.
They
I'm
need
not
more
saying
to
they're
work
not
with.
best or brightest. I'm saying that the standard that they are given for when they want to get a child diagnosed with ADHD is really unfair to them, and it's really unfair to the child. We would get a lot of parents who would be like, my child has ADHD. The teacher said it. I've said it, whatever. And when you look into the child, the first thing one of the doctors that I worked with would ask would be, if you give them an iPod or an iPad, will they sit there for hours and play with it? Yeah, that's not a problem. Will
They
they
don't
play their
have
video
an
games
ADHD.
for hours? Yes. So out of the 4 years that I worked in pediatrics, 2 years I was in the same office, we probably received like 5 or 6 requests weekly. And
That is insane. These
Out
kids,
of the
these people want to
children that-
medicate these children.
out
There's
of
a
the
way-
children
there-
that were actually ADHD or had ADHD, there was 3.
Yeah. So there's a way you can test whether you have ADHD or not. There's propensity to have ADHD or not. So it's simple. Adderall, right? Adderall, when people take with ADHD, they take Adderall.
Yeah,
it
it's a
actually
different
calms them
effect.
down.
Yeah, it's-
But
it's
if
a-
they don't have ADHD, it speeds them up.
Yep.
Because it's basically, it's not really that, but it's basically synthetic cocaine, right? Like that's what Adderall is.
Listen,
So-
and honestly, I have
I've heard that a
a
lot.
teacher friend.
Yes.
I have a teacher friend. She has a child pretty much the same age as my son, and she was actually recommending, medications for my
Yeah.
son. Like just to make
Calming down?
calming down and making a little more, passive.
That's a
And I was like,
recommendation you probably don't want to take. I think
There's-
that's,
no.
I'm not a
There's
medical professional,
so many
but
other steps that
and
a
she's like,
parent
yeah,
should
my
take.
my son has had the same problem, and I've been medicating him with this and that. You should try it. I was like, fuck it.
no, that's what you're doing. You're medicating your kid because you feel inconvenience because your kid is not like they want to do things. As opposed to doing that, why don't you take that and channel the energy somewhere else where they're interested and they can actually like continue.
That's what it's all about. So the guy in the video, he goes more into it about how it's so in human nature, we've figured out it's fight or flight. That's a reaction to any situation. I go to
It's the dopamine hit that you get, and dopamine and
we're
endorphins.
having a conversation right now. You don't think of it, but it is fight or flight. You either can fight, which is in this situation, just talk back to me, continue the conversation, process everything, or flight. You get up and you walk away, right? And then the zoning out, which is what they're looking at and calling ADHD, is just because you no longer want to process that information, but you don't have the option to go get up and walk away. These kids don't have the option to get out of their desk and go do something else. No, they have to sit there and force to try and process the thing that they can't focus on. So what do? They zone out. They don't focus on it. They just blank. So they blank out.
In a college,
we all do that. In a college, kids, we all blank out.
In a college, I had an anatomy teacher, right? And this guy was a genius. He knew that this exists, right? He knew that 15 to 20 minutes is the maximum you can keep someone's attention, right? So what he would do, he would break down the classes in this way. He would say, okay, we're going to talk about this subject. This subject has two topics, right? And that's it. So he would start about the 2 topics. Okay, there's 3 things. We're almost over. Every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes, he's like, we're almost over. We're almost there. Okay, we have the other one left. So he would just reel you back in to the conversation by giving you these like cues, the timestamps, basically. That here's a timestamp. This is where we are. Like, we're almost over. We'll continue with a new thing, because what happens in a lot of times, you zone out and you don't hear the new thing. Now you don't know it, right?
Yeah.
So that
I don't
so happens a lot to all
in high
of us.
school, but I had a teacher that kind of broke down. He kind of understood that as
Yeah.
well. And what he did was he would do lectures for like 15, 20 minutes, and then after that he would let us go individually and do our own work.
Yeah, because he's breaking out the monotony of that one subject, right? So what that does, it just actually forces you to do something else. But in reality, what you're doing, you're still within
You're still
the
engaged.
You know, I wonder what's the key to, because I understand what you're saying and I completely agree, right? But I also have witnessed times where I'm like, for example, I loved a history class for certain teachers, right? How to be a good teacher. But then I could sit and listen to a lesson, take notes, and we had, when I started middle school, they started doing the block classes, which instead of like 47 minutes, which is what all you guys were used to in high school, if you went to high school in America, they
ours was
now made it
45.
an hour and a half.
Yeah, no.
So
So
that made it so much more difficult for people to like stay focused for this hour and a half now. Sorry.
So what I've noticed, like specifically,
Sorry, I just want to finish. But like, I can, for example, me just thinking history, I can remember times where that for the hour and a half, I was focused and learning. What's the key to that? And I didn't necessarily want to be. I'm at school.
That, I think, comes down to the same thing as you actually liking it. Just like you can
Not
sit on
necessarily-
your computer for an hour and a half, listening videos or watching or reading things that you actually enjoy. And some teachers made it better by making it in a way that you learn to like it by the way they were teaching it.
So for me,
But that's what my question is what's that way?
so for me,
What is the key to that?
so for me, the key to that was
Because I
this.
had teachers that
I
were
think
bad
that's
history
the
teachers, and I couldn't
personality of the
focus.
So
teacher.
the first thing, for example, you know, again, you know, my son has a lot of energy, right? So I remember what obviously when we came here in DR, you put your kids like to on school like when they are like a year and a half. You know, it's like a daycare kind of thing. So they really start very early age. So when we came here, he was like 2.5. So like, you know, it was pre-K 3 years old was like the first course. So when he got here, he spent an entire year without like going to school. After he already went to school over there, spent an entire year without going to school. Pre-K 3, first school year here, had 3 teachers. 3, the same you know, classroom. Combined, all these 3 teachers was like 270 years. Like, how can you expect, you know, people like, you know, 60, 63-year-old, whatever, like really old, like, you know, ladies taking care of like, you know, like young kids and stuff. Like, obviously you don't have the energy, you don't have the stamina, you don't have you don't have the drive like for you to deal with like kids at that younger age.
I can remember having a lot of teachers. Like, for example, some of my favorite teachers were mostly younger teachers, and very few are older. Or as I should say, the teachers that I disliked the most were mostly older. Right, only a couple were maybe young teachers, and
So for me, that
all ages are assholes.
So the focus part was like, you know, no kid growing up likes math, no kid likes physics, no kid likes chemistry, right? But for me, it was if I were to do, let's say, homework,
chemistry.
math homework, right? If I were to do math homework, I couldn't concentrate for extended periods of time. I found by accident, a way for me to concentrate was listening to music in the background. So as long as the music was running in the background, I could spend hours doing the same thing. And now I find myself the same way. When I'm working on the videos, when I'm doing this and that, I could have headphones in my ears editing the video, but as long as something's running in the background, it keeps me glued to my chair.
So
but that was me.
I've
What
found
type of
it
music though?
Doesn't matter. Something that I like listening to.
I
It doesn't
found
matter.
weird. That was a really big thing for me when I was in school. But as I got into college, I noticed that formula stopped working for me, and I don't know what it was.
That formula doesn't work if I read. But if I'm doing something with pen and paper or computer,
Okay.
where I'm actually doing something but reading, when I'm reading and the music is going in the background, it gets a jumble.
Yeah,
It just becomes a
that
jumble.
definitely happens. I don't know. I've always had that question of. I just feel like it's like almost like a mood. Like if you're not in that, like, I guess it's like, that sounds dumb to say almost, but like if you're not in that mind stage or mood, I guess you could say, of I'm ready to like learn, and it's not just saying that to yourself. It's like it's weird. I don't know. I just found that sometimes I would sit down, have the same situation going on, and I just couldn't focus as like yesterday when I did the same thing and I could.
Jay,
you know what I mean?
You're one of my smartest friends, like, that I have. So
Don't make his head any bigger, please.
okay, so Jay, you're
You
one of
can't.
the
You
you're one of
can't.
the
It's already
the-
big.
It's
It's
already-
so
it's
big that
maxed out.
he cannot make it any bigger.
So Jay, since you know so much about, like, mostly every topic, why do people concentrate more when they're taking a shit? Actually,
Why do you concentrate more?
yeah.
What do you mean?
I
When
have
people
a theory.
are sitting in the throne.
Yeah.
It's usually like a peace
I have a
moment.
theory because you're at your most vulnerable, so you have to stay focused. That like they say, that's a theory. I'm just guessing because like how they say that dogs,
Yeah,
when
they
go
look
to,
back, make
when
sure
they,
you're
when
there.
they go to take a shit, and this is a big thing I noticed too with my own dogs. They make sure, like, for example, they look at their owners because they like to see that you're checking on them too and
Yes.
making sure that you're watching surroundings, and they're always looking around as they're
Yeah.
coddled up.
I
That's a
don't-
theory. I don't know.
I don't know.
fucking
I don't necessarily would say I'm concentrated on something when I'm on a throne. I don't think I am.
I mean,
Felix is trying to say he does his best work.
the majority of the people, find that like a very peaceful moment on which.
No,
I
I
mean,
just think of it
but-
as like waste of time. I wish I didn't have to shit. I could use that time for something else.
You know,
Jay,
I,
you're
you know,
completely
you know
right.
what, you know. I think you know what I think it
Jay,
is. I have a new theory.
I think you're full of shit, Jay.
I have a,
Like, literally.
I have a new theory. It's because you separate yourself when you go to take a shit. And for example, when I'm in my room and even if I'm doing homework, my mom needs something. She don't give a fuck. She goes and she tells me, "Go do this, whatever." But if I'm in the toilet, I'm taking a shit. Don't matter what she needs at that moment. I'm taking a shit. So my theory is maybe that it secludes you, and that could be what makes a little more focus. You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know.
Yeah, you have no choice but to focus on.
I
one
don't know.
thing.
That's above my pay grade. I don't know. No, dude. So, so I don't know. Like as far as Gonzalo, I think you just need to challenge him more. Give him stuff
definitely.
that's pretty difficult, and you'll be able to gauge where he will go and where he won't.
Yeah.
But don't make it easy enough for him. Like just challenge him just enough.
Jay, I want to tell you something. It's gonna go against your beliefs and everything.
Uh huh.
Today I pick up Gonzalo from his after school program, and he's like, "Listen, Daddy, I thought about everything you said yesterday. I want to be a good boy because I want to have a girlfriend. I want to get married." I was like, "Yeah, you should get together with your Uncle Jay,
You guys can
We're
do
like,
this
"Yeah,
together.
we can do it together." Like,
No, I don't think Gonzalo's gonna have trouble getting girls. I'm just gonna tell you
No,
that
not
right
at
now.
all.
He's not gonna have
Not
trouble
at
getting
all.
girls. You tell him, listen, concentrate on something else. You're not gonna have trouble getting a girlfriend. Don't worry about it.
Honestly, anytime I've ever like caught him doing something that he wasn't supposed to be doing, he tries to explain to me why he was doing it and why he wants to continue to do what he's doing. Every time.
Like in my bathroom, he sprayed the water on the mirror. He found it on the counter.
Who was it the other day? Dad's
Dad's friends' kids.
no. Juan Ernesto. No, that was
other
the
one.
other one. His
Yeah.
brother is Juan Luis.
Yes.
Juan Luis's child was like that too. The girl, she loved to negotiate.
Yeah.
It was
And
hilarious.
she's the second child. There is something about
Super smart. She's super smart girl. And anytime he would tell her, I remember what it was. So the day before they got to my house, they got to their hotel because they came from DR. They're visiting his wife, and 2 kids, and they were getting to the hotel. And the boy had his tablet in his hand and his backpack, and when they were in the lobby checking in, he put his backpack down and was entertained on the tablet or whatever it was, electronic. And when they got to the room, there's no backpack, and they freaked out and this and that. And so he implemented a thing where he said, then tomorrow nobody's getting electronics, nobody. And during the day when they were at my house, the day they're not supposed to have electronics, the little boy got a hold of the dad's phone for like 2 seconds because
dad's phone.
Because he was showing pictures, right? And the little boy said, "Oh, I want to see." And the girl said, "Hey, he's not supposed to have the phone." He's like, "Well, I'm showing him pictures." Well, I should have the phone now for a little bit. I should get it for a little bit because he had it, and so I need to have the phone for a little bit. Well, he was just showing pictures. No, I should get the phone for a little bit. That little girl was hilarious.
So I don't know, man. It's like, it is what it is, you know. You just kind of grow. So I think that it's a multi-pronged issue, right? One prong is that they're learning from their older sibling, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing.
And it's not just older sibling. Like for him, my mom always makes fun of me because I struggle to learn my alphabet. But when I think about it, my mom didn't even know the alphabet. Who was teaching me?
So
Who was teaching me to learn the alphabet? Because it was ABC and she was saying ABC. So like, how am I supposed to learn the right way to say it?
So it's a,
And he learned it before he even started school because Rodolfo learned it the year before he was going to start school. Rodolfo was coming over to our house daily after school and was singing his ABCs. So he was 3 years old singing his ABCs along with his best friend. So my mom says he learned it faster.
For making me the smarter sibling.
no, so it's a multi-pronged issue. Like, you know, the kids learn from the other ones, right? That's number one. Number two, I think what happens with the second one, because with the first one, parents don't really know what to expect. You can give them all this knowledge, but they still don't know what to expect. So they're kind of still on the eggshells. So everything is just like packaged, yeah, the bubble wrapped and all that. With the second one, they're already bubble wrapped the first one. They still don't think bad's gonna happen. So the second one gets to get away with a bunch of shit.
I was talking to Blanca about this.
And I think that's another thing.
When the pacifier falls on the floor for the first child, it's like, oh, I need to go to the sink, clean it with soap. But for the second child, you pick it up and you just
and
give it back to him.
And I think what happens when the kids,
it's Liam the same way too.
I don't know.
Liam's
yes,
a little bit, yes. Definitely with the pushing buttons thing. He's definitely on that.
Yes, he
definitely on that.
You tell her no, and she'll be like, okay. You tell him no, he's like, but
So the thing is, I'm thinking, you know, because like, you know, the parents see that, oh, okay, he's turning out just fine, even though if I bubble wrap it, it's gonna be just fine. So they kind of loosen down a little bit. So they're not letting the younger one get away with a lot more shit than you did get away with it. So as I said, it's a multi-pronged issue. It's not just one thing or another thing. There's just so many levels to it that, you know, if you were one way with this kid and the way the other kid, I think that would have been exactly the same across the board. A level of
exhaustion, or in my parents' case, maybe a level of age kind of kicked in, because I always told my mom, like, you let him get away with anything. And there was just this, if my mom told me no and I asked again, and she told me no and I asked again, she would get to a point where she'd be like, ask me again and you're going to see what happens. And I asked again, maybe 2 or 3 times, learned my lesson. With him...
Hey, I got ask me again.
He would get
I got ask me again too.
He would get the ask me again, and then he would still ask again, and she was too tired to react. So he would ask again, and then he'd realize, oh, nothing happened to me. I'll be all right. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yes, that's normal. That's the younger child privilege. You know, you younger ones, you wouldn't know this because you have the privilege. But what is the saying?
I have a good piece of advice for you, man. Pair of twins right away. Pam, pam.
Oh yeah,
pair of twins right away.
Off the rip. That's it. Game over.
I think there's still a level of that. I don't know. We'd have to ask.
No, I don't think anyone in the family is genetically predisposed.
We should get some twins on.
So talking about that whole genetic, you know, would you genetically modify your kid to make a super baby? Like right now, it exists, right? Like you know, you can go to a sperm bank or a surrogate mother. They have their curriculum vitae. They're in the sports.
Yeah, but you're
they're into
still gonna
music,
have.
You can
You
tailor
still run.
that.
Can
You
you
still
filter
run the
that in
risks.
Tinder?
Huh?
Can you filter that in
No,
Tinder?
unfortunately, Tinder
still
doesn't
run-
come with that.
You still run the risks because you're at the end of the day you will be dealing with the normal ordinary human. What he was talking about was being able to basically GMO your
Like,
child's.
pick this and that
Yeah,
and that and that.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're here yet, but
But he's saying if we could, would you? I
Yes,
think I
100%.
would to a certain extent.
No, I would. Even though if that kid is gonna grow up the biggest monster, I would.
He's a successful monster.
Yeah, no, because bottom line, all of us are gonna die and we're gonna all leave, right? And whatever legacy you leave, and then your child is gonna live their own legacy. Because bottom line, that's what the bottom line is, right? There's always a legacy. So if your child can have a success and lead a legacy and perhaps become somebody that's gonna be super influential and take care of things in the world, I would 100% say, yeah, go ahead and do it. Even though it might be unhappy in my life, that's okay. Let the kid reach the levels.
So Jay, do you agree that spanking kids is a solution?
Spanking kids is a solution. So I have one example. So when Nala and Zeus get together and Zeus gets a little
Kids
more
and dogs,
little
okay.
little more
I
little
think
more
they can be comparable on this level.
yeah, a little more frisky. What does Nala do? Bites back at him, right? So I think there's a because when you say something like they're cognitively, kids don't really necessarily see it or understand that they don't necessarily see and understand the consequence because they can't see that far. You as a grown-up can't see that far. You can see, let's say, if I drink right now, get behind the wheel, I'm going to cause an accident, possibly kill someone, possibly kill myself, right? It's not a good thing. But try to explain that to a kid that doesn't have the experience. You can't. This is where that enforcement comes in. So
it's a consequence to their action.
Correct. Correct. So
But I think
So
there's
that-
a certain age where you're
what
no
that
longer
does
needing to
Correct.
give them a consequence.
correct.
Right?
But what that does, spanking, not beating the shit out of the kids. Spanking is one thing and beating the shit out of the kids is another thing, right? So I think teaching your kids accountability is super important for them to become a good part of the society, like a functional part of the society.
I'm going to do two things. I'm going to be devil's advocate, right? In one way of saying, if you're the person that your child is supposed to be safest with and they're supposed to trust the most is the parent, and now you've instilled fear when they react, are you instilling, and I don't exactly believe this, but I just want to throw it out there. So now if they mess up, you're going to spank them. Do you think that's going to transfer into maybe their teenage years where they're like, if I mess up,
It's
I'm gonna
very
fuck up?
possible for it to happen. What I wanted to say real quick is I like to look at spanking a child, spanking, right? Now, like you said, beating the shit out of somebody, no leaving marks, no, just a simple ass spanking. Like I got
Just kind of like Nala bites at Zeus, but doesn't really bite him.
Exactly, right? Puts him in check. I kind of look at that as just a faster way of, instead of doing that, you could very easily just take that child and say, you need to put your face in that corner for 30 minutes because of what you did.
Yeah.
I think that can very easily produce the same product.
Yeah, no, it does, which technically is
Now,
the
well,
proverbial
listen,
spanking, right? You're teaching them accountability.
Like listen, I had I mean, it's not a secret. I mean, I usually talk about it very openly. I had a very rough childhood.
You turned out to be okay.
My dad was very aggressive with my brother and I. In a certain way that we usually joke around. Like if there was something in the middle of the way, be it a chair, be it a belt, whatever, he hit us with everything. So the thing with that is, and that was part of my conversation with my 6-year-old yesterday, and I told him, like, listen, do you know why, like, who's the only person in earth that I actually am afraid of or I actually feared at a certain point? Was actually my dad. Because for a certain type of respect, that was the only person that I couldn't, lift a single finger,
Yeah.
like, back, out of respect.
Was it respect or fear?
Fear.
Call it what you want. Call it what you want.
But
I
that's
mean,
what I'm
It
saying.
made him. That
I mean,
made him who he is today.
Technically, you know, like for example, I started doing jiu-jitsu when I was 17. So, and I live in my house, and my dad was very aggressive still. Like, and I
He
knew
said, "He said we're gonna fuck this man."
and I
up.
knew I could.
We gonna get ready. We gonna get him back.
And that was part of my brothers and I's like drivers like to start jiu-jitsu, because we had seen so many things and we had so many demons inside that we actually wanted to, you know, just get it out and throw it out somewhere else. Like, fuck it, you know. So the thing is that I told my wife at a certain point, and I told her like clearly, like, listen, I don't care being the bad guy here in the picture. I want my kids not to see fear in me, but I really want the person that they show, like, any type, like the type of respect that we need here. I want to be that person. So I don't care being the bad guy. So throw me under the bus. I want to be the bad guy. I don't fucking care. I am the one that gives out the most like hugs, kisses. I'm always buying everything for my kids. The one that says I love you the most is myself. I always like to, you know, take my kids like to our bed and hug them like all night long, you know. And all they see and all they hear like from me is like, I love you, like, you know, you mean the world to me. However, when the time comes you do something, I'm the worst out there.
Yeah.
So I always wanted, I mean, and I think there should be a certain point of like respect. Like, listen, you crossed the line. I'm sorry.
Listen, if I didn't get all the spankings that I got when I was younger, I would not be who I am today. I can tell you this right now. And also, what I'm observing, because right now,
same thing, yeah.
because right now, the society is more towards don't touch your kid, reason with them, this and that. Now we have millions of conditions that kids have, yet we don't have ways. We have possibly tried this, but there's no concrete way or how to fix it. And the further it goes, the more kids are becoming more belligerent. They're becoming little worse and worse and worse, right? We didn't have these issues back in the day. What did we have? Spanking. Now we don't have spanking. We have all these issues. So this is the conclusion I'm drawing.
So I don't think that spankings are necessarily the only reason. I think parents are trying so hard to give their child what they didn't have.
Not only that, they're trying to be their friends. You're not their friend. You are their parent.
Yeah.
Your job is to raise them, not to be their best friend.
Some of the worst kids I know growing up was because their parents were their friends.
Yes.
When they should. I am friends with my dad now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't friends with my dad for the first 20 years of my life.
Yeah, but your relationship is way different.
I wasn't.
Now, because
It
you
just
can
isn't.
see things
it
now.
It just wasn't like that. For example, there are just things with my dad that I can now do and enjoy and talk about and whatever that before wasn't the same. It just wasn't.
Corruption.
Corruption. Yeah, but this is true because you as a young kid, you don't see the difference. You haven't lived enough. You haven't lived enough life. And my favorite is when a 15-year-old will come out there and try to talk like they know what life is. Bro, you barely just learn how to wipe your own ass. You don't even take regular showers. Don't tell me
And we were
what's
all those,
the right way.
And the crazy part is we're all those 15-year-olds.
Correct.
We were all that.
Correct.
We were all at that 15 going, oh, I know what he knows.
I think
I know it. I know how it's going to go. And it's not.
Yeah.
That's
think
one of
the
the things that
difference-
scares me the most is like finding out these new things as you're growing up. It's like my parents were the same person. Like they just changed over time because they discover new things.
Yeah.
they learn
And
new
I
things.
truly believe, like, when you're starting to grow up, you
Such a good way to
revert.
look at it.
It's not that the times are changing. Times are really not changing. You're actually reverting back to how your parents think because you're living the life and you're seeing whatever they're saying is correct. It's not that times are changing. It's you're actually gaining more wisdom, and that wisdom shows you that the old traditional ways might have been the right way to go about it because it makes you it paves the way for you. When you're young, dumb, full of testosterone or estrogen, you have no idea what's going on, you know?
So I think a lot of like these 15, 16-year-olds that don't know how to act because they just don't know how to act. I don't know how else to put it. They don't hear the word no enough.
Correct.
And then life is gonna. So I think a parent's responsibility is to teach your child the word no from a small point in life, so they're learning it as they go, so that when they're 20 years old, it doesn't smack them in the face. Like, this is the first time things aren't going my way. I don't know how to act. Because either way, life is gonna teach you, right? One way or the other, you're gonna learn how it works. So part of the responsibility of a parent, I think, is to show them all of that, the little negative things, slowly, so it doesn't smack them in the face when they're adults.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
I like how you emphasize slowly, because if you just like completely say no, 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 I feel like that can be
Out of
really
nowhere,
No,
yeah,
I
you
mean,
can't raise a child till they're 6 and then like let them do whatever they want. They're rapid and doing whatever they.
But
rapid.
I learned the the meaning of responsibility at a very young age.
Young age, yeah.
Like I knew what like, let's say if I wanted to eat, I knew that cost money. It was there was an effort behind it. It was not a granted thing. It was a matter of like people
Did you know that because you know that, or because your parents told you that there was value behind those things?
Not even. I'm not gonna say I was the smartest one out there, but I saw everything my parents did at that point,
The environment.
and I was like, and trust me, I grew up in a very
Adversity builds character.
not even adversity, in a very favorable position, socioeconomic ways, and even like that, I didn't want. When I was growing up, I was like, oh, yeah, all my friends like, yeah, you're gonna have everything in life because your parents are wealthy and whatever. You have this and that, and at a very young age, I was like, I don't want none of that. Like, to me, that was not meaningful. Because at that point, for example, my dad thought he was entitled to spank me or beat me up because he was the provider. So I was like, listen, I don't want, if that's what you're asking or bringing to the table, and this is what it's costing me for you to be on this position, I don't want anything to do with that. Keep what you have. I'm gonna do my shit. I'm gonna work at a very young age. I'm gonna make myself a name and a different human being on a side. I don't want to be a part of this. So this is the way I grew up, in within my environment.
But indirectly, that made you who you are today. That's why you work your ass off.
Yeah, but I saw
I would say directly.
I saw the good part about you being successful and having everything at a price. So
Yeah,
I was like,
everything has a price. Yeah.
So
To understand that, but to have that understanding at such a young age is way unlikely.
like, trust me, I had
It's
to
super rare.
I had to mature at a very young age, and even my brother, you guys know my brother, I know my brother was like like Gonzalo, like he was
I've
like
heard the stories.
he saw every time he saw like I don't know something shining, he was like, oh, shiny. And I was like, bro, like, come on, like, don't fall behind because you're gonna get spanked, you're gonna be beat up, because I'm seeing that, like, and I love my brother, but I know that every time he behaved that in a certain way, he
Not
got
so smart way.
not so smart way, he got beat up, and I was like, okay, like, did that make me smart? Like, probably, because I was seeing that way he got.
You learned by example.
I learned by example, but like
You were wise.
he didn't
instead of
saw
smart.
it the other way around, So I always try to, like, come this way, do this, do that, like, and he always saw me as an enemy, because he thought I was like pairing up with my dad.
Yeah, I'm sure my brother felt that way sometimes too.
This
Yeah.
is the same thing.
I'm sure my brother.
Same.
felt
He
that
was
way.
like, I was like,
But you were on
he
another
thought I was
level.
like pairing up
I was
with my dad,
dying.
like pushing him into stuff just to like listen, be on this side because this is a safe side. But he wanted to experience on the other side because he was like free soul. Like, okay, you want to go ahead? Go ahead
Second
and do it.
child syndrome.
So I have this.
Do that.
I have this strategy. Now I don't know. That could be completely wrong, which I probably am. So if I have a boy, he ain't getting shit. He's gonna have to earn everything, no matter what the socioeconomic situation is. He's earning everything. But if I have a little girl, she's getting absolutely everything that comes out of her mouth, and I'll explain why. Because what's gonna happen if he doesn't get shit and earns everything, he's gonna grow up with an idea that whatever I want, I have to work for it and earn it and do it myself. But for the girl, what she's gonna do, she's not gonna have of these illusions of some bum coming around showing her a little bit of this and then just treating her the way he wants and then just like dumping her, right? And breaking her heart. So now if you give her absolutely everything, take her on these trips to have her see the world, the bum is not going to come around and say, well, I'll take you to Dominican Republic. Oh my God, to Dominican Republic. And then she's no longer the cool thing. You know what I mean? She'll be like, yeah, I've been to Dominican Republic.
Yeah, but you
yeah, I've
still
been to
gotta-
France.
been
Yeah, I've
there.
been
You
to
still have
Italy.
to
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have to
Been
still,
there,
you,
done that.
You still have to.
Yeah,
You still
been
have
there,
to
done that.
implement-
Mercedes, I've been in one. I
You still
own
have
one.
to. You still have to implement independence, though.
No, that's okay. Independence will come
What is-
along.
hey.
You raise a brat like that, independence is gonna come along.
Yeah,
when
independence
she doesn't
comes.
know the when she doesn't know the
I
value of
didn't know
things.
the word no.
Yeah,
As a child, I still don't know the word no.
Emily and these. Yeah.
yeah. She and look at you. You got a pretty successful guy. He's not
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
bum. You know what I mean? Where the guy can give you what you want. So your dad raised you the correct way. He was smart. He knew what he was doing.
Jay said, "I knew I was fucking right."
Yeah.
I still don't know the word no.
Yeah,
My
so
daddy.
that's what I'm trying to say. Like, and I think this is super important because I think when you're raising kids, you kind of have to look at the future, right? Because as a boy, if you don't earn on your own, nobody's gonna give it to you, and you're gonna be a pariah, and everybody's gonna laugh at you. They're not gonna come to your help. They're gonna laugh at you. As a girl, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, she's a girl. She's weak. Let's help her."
And I've told like everybody, like, listen, even like it doesn't matter, like the definition of successful is very ambiguous,
Yeah.
honestly. Because for you, like being successful, perhaps is having $100 in the bank, or maybe for you, it's having $1 million in the bank.
That sounds better.
For you, it's like having 20 millions in the bank. It's like it's very ambiguous. It's like like success for
It's all perspective.
Success is for everybody is way different. It's a matter of you being happy. I think that's the first a part of the equation,
First and most important.
right? Being happy and doing like whatever you wanna, even if you are like if your job or whatever it is to like mop the floor, like be the best at it.
Yes,
Mop it
you
up.
gotta be a best
Just
at it.
be happy about it, bro. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, see, the thing is, I think for a guy, success for a guy is this, where a guy, I would consider a guy successful is where majority of the girls want to be with this guy and majority of men want to be like him. That's a success for a guy because he's a role model. He's a leader. He's
Yeah, well,
showing something in a
I
community
think-
that's above than what everyone
like
else
Felix
is doing.
just said, it's
That's for you
perspective.
then, yeah.
That's what your success is.
Yeah, because again, like
Because you don't have to be a success in your community. You can be success within your family. Whatever group you're part of, if everyone is looking up to you, like, hey, I think you've reached a level. It doesn't have to be monetary.
I don't think I would judge my success
Yeah,
based
I
on
don't think so
how
either.
others look at me.
Well, because you see, you're becoming a part of the integrated life, right? So for you to get along in life, people have to love you and respect you. And if you don't have their love and respect, it's going to be super hard to get anywhere. And for you to demonstrate that, you have to demonstrate it with your own success because nobody's going to give you the success. You have to get that success and whatever you consider success.
But that's the thing. Like, how can you define success? Like for people, like for example, let's say you have like $10 million and overnight you lost everything.
And then
Next day you want to kill yourself.
you do, but
Because
the success,
money for you, money was being a successful
Yeah.
person,
you know,
That's
and you're not, and just that is something just material. That's just not. You're never gonna be happy with it.
so to kind of hone in on your point. There have been moments where I'm like with my family or we're doing something and we're all together, and I'll look over to whoever's next to me and be like, I wouldn't change this for all the money in the world.
yeah, but see, for me is this, just like you said, the 10 million example, for me is not the success that you made 10 million and the next day you lost it all. It's what you're going to do the day after that. If the day after that you're going to bring your money back again, I think that shows a character. See what I mean? That it's earning the money. If we're talking money, if you earn the money and then you lose it and then earn it back and then lose it again and earn it back, it shows perseverance. It shows what's
What are you,
called
a day trader?
no, it shows something.
Yeah.
There's this word. It's called anti-fragility, right? It's not anti-fragility. It's actually a really good book. Anti-fragility is written by Nassim Taleb, right?
I'm just gonna
And he's a
remind you that
trader.
we're past 2 hours.
Oh, we're way past.
Oh,
2
we're
hours.
past- okay.
We're way past.
So
2
anyway,
hours.
the
This point
point-
don't even matter.
To me as a guy, you have to be anti-fragile.
Isn't that like a Mary Poppins thing?
No. Anti-fragile.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, whatever it is.
Super. What is it? No, I can't say it.
Isn't that what he said?
No.
That's what
Is that the word he said?
Because we don't have
Oh
a
my God, I
word.
can't
We don't
remember
have a
right now.
word for fragile. Like we don't have a antonym for a fragile, right? So the only way
Soft,
you can,
weak,
huh?
Yeah.
What's that?
Soft, weak.
Well, no, meaning the opposite of a
Yeah.
fragile. What would be the opposite of a fragile? Not fragile,
Strong.
Strong.
Durable.
durable. Yeah, but anti-fragility is
Based.
you're resistant to fragility completely. Because even if you're durable, there's always a way for you to make that thing not durable.
That makes me think of
Anti-fragilities. You have not that you don't have any weaknesses. You don't have the propensity to fragility.
That makes me think of David Goggins. You guys know who David Goggins
Yeah.
is? The guy who set
he's
the
a U.S.
world.
Marine.
Yeah, he's a U.S. Marine. He set the world record for pull-ups. He does those super marathons where he runs like 24 miles in 24 hours straight, or 36 miles, or all these things, right? And he said one of his biggest things is he goes, "Man, I love the darkness." I learned, because he had a really bad growing up, with father and mother. I think I don't want to speculate or quote wrongly, but he had a bad growing up, and he said he learned that the only way to get, not the only way, but the best way to make himself proficient at getting through these strong times is by, when he's in these bad, low times, to study them and to almost embrace it.
Yeah.
I want to be in this darkness because I know that if I can recognize this darkness and study it, I can get out, and the next time this happens, I'll be better at it, and I'll get out of it quicker. And
I'm gonna tell you something that you're all gonna think it's super gross, right? But when we're growing up, like, one of my favorite foods in the world is this canned fish in tomato sauce.
Ew.
Canned fish in tomato sauce.
This sounds gross.
Yeah. So when I tell this
sardines?
sardines in tomato sauce, but when I do eat the sardines in tomato sauce, it reminds me of back in the day times. Because I mean,
Nostalgia.
as traveled as I am, as many restaurants as I've ever gone to, from good to worst, eating the best food out there possible, for the most expensive to the cheapest one. You cannot replace my can of sardines with any of that food. And because it reminds me of the times that I had to go through.
Sancocho over sardines, bro.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm trying to say.
But it's different. Sancocho is different for me. That's like for me eating mangoes on my grandma's kitchen floor in Dominican Republic. Like, you can't replace that.
You can, and the whole thing was really well captured in that cartoon
eating
Ratatouille.
cookies and milk.
Ratatouille, yeah.
Yeah, and Ratatouille was captured really well.
I was
Or in
thinking
her old
about
apartment.
Yeah, because it takes you back to the times to
Nostalgia.
shows you the times, like, where I came from and where I am right now. I can sit and eat a piece of Wagyu steak at whatever amount of money. I'm still gonna like that can of sardines better than the Wagyu steak. Do you know what I mean? So and I think adversity builds people, especially guys. You need that because you're not gonna have help. You're just not. You're gonna have to pave your own road. You're gonna have to do it. And unfortunate, you have this weight of the world on your shoulders, but you have to bear it. That's your job. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty good time to end, huh?
Yeah, I think that's a good note. Anybody
All right,
else have
guys.
anything?
Thank you again, guys. On your way out, please like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'm not gonna say it. Y'all probably know by now, but
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for coming. This was episode 21.
21.
Thank
Yeah,
you guys.
Listening.
and
Love
then
y'all.
22, we're
talking.
gonna have a guest. Actually, y'all gonna like it. He's a good friend of mine. He's gonna be here, and we're gonna talk about. Should I reveal what we're gonna talk about?
Go ahead, brother.
All right. So we're gonna talk about a little bit about vegetarianism and veganism. So, and my friend,
because he's a vegan.
he became a vegetarian
Oh,
and a
he's a
vegan lately. Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm,
well, which one?
super excited. I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure he's gonna tell us
We're
which
gonna
one is
we're
it.
gonna roast him about it anyways.
Yeah. But no, I don't want to roast him, but I think it's gonna be a pretty good.
No,
I mean, I've done it.
I wanna
episode, yeah.
have I just have questions of why,
Yeah. So and I think
Can I come over?
yeah, come
100%.
over.
Can I bring a Big Mac with me?
A Big
Yes.
Mac, yeah.
So we should do a. It would be hilarious the day he comes. Hacer un lechón. Un lechón entero.
What is that?
No. I think you're gonna like it. He's a pretty successful. He's a young guy. He's in his 20s. He's super young, very successful.
He's cool people. So man.
Yeah, very successful. But
We'll
anyway,
see.
stay tuned. Thursday, 9 p.m. Hopefully, Miggy won't have any computer issues, but he probably will. So just
Hey, it's
it
not
is
only
what it
Mickey,
is.
it's all of our computer issues.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming. See y'all later.
Peace.